Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Temple Capsules, the creative platform dedicated to preserving the underground, fighting against the commercialization of art, and giving artists a space to share their story, culture, and vision. Luxury fashion has always been a controversial topic, but Shiven is someone who knows how to truly understand the essence of art and the essence of luxury rather than a product that's made just to sell. I'm really excited for you guys to hear about his story and his vision. Shivat, welcome.
Thank you so much. Such a beautiful intro. That's really nice. Yeah, it's so nice. Yeah, I really like the message. That's super.
Shivan, I want you to take us back because before people get to know who you are as a fashion designer, as a creative director, I want them to know who you really are.
Yeah.
So take us back to your first memory of you with your grandpa at the park.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So my first memory of me at the park with my grandpa, it's back in Delhi, back in India, and I think it was probably around maybe 3 or 4, something like this. And my grandpa would always take me to the park to kind of play with my friends and all of that. But I would rather prefer kind of spending time with my grandpa because he was always like such a good person and just like he had so many interesting things to say, and like I loved his view on the world as well. But oftentimes, like, I would just be sitting with him rather than playing with my friends, as I just mentioned, and he would be like, "Sure, why don't you go like play with them, and like experience the things that they're doing, right?" And I just go like, grandpa, like they're doing this right now. For example, like they would really like to skate and like go on the swings and then go really high and then jump off, right? That was always fun.
Yeah.
And I would just tell my grandfather that, that kid's gonna do that, and then he's probably gonna fall, and then he's probably gonna cry a little bit. So let's just wait a little bit. I'll enjoy talking to you.
3 years old, that's crazy.
No, it was really weird. I think I was always like I wanted to be an adult, and I always had like a very stable head on my shoulders, and I was always also very scared in a way because if I was just like a regular kid, I would try that, fall, but then learn from that. But I always like made it a point to like learn from others' mistakes, and then still I would go and do the same thing as well. But I would just like make sure that I avoid the thing that kid did that made him fall, basically.
So you're always very perceptive as a child.
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
And do you think that's how you even got into fashion in the first place, because you were so perceptive of things?
Definitely. Yeah.
Tell me about the first time that you connected to fashion without even realizing it.
Yeah. So it's really interesting because I was never like a kid who, would like buy the latest issue of Vogue or something. I was never that guy. But I was always kind of obsessed with craftsmanship, and I was obsessed with why, certain things that are purely material things would make people feel so good, and how people would like oftentimes kind of wait for a special occasion to get something. So in my case, it was like through my mom, growing up, my mom on her birthdays would always, want a handbag, for example. So when I was really young, it would be like Coach handbags. I'd be like, why is my dad like, bringing these handbags from the US? Because my dad used to travel a lot for work.
Yeah.
And Coach is American, of course, so he would get like a better price for Coach handbags over there, and he would like buy like 1 or 2 handbags and like bring them back, and then present them to my mom on her birthdays. And those handbags always made my mom very happy, even if it was like just for the moment or like for the week or something. She really felt joy in receiving those handbags. I was like, what is it? Why? So I really got into like just looking at them, like feeling the textures, like seeing the preciseness of the stitching, and like seeing the craftsmanship.
And how old were you?
I think this started around like 9 or 8, 7 to 9 years old. That was like my first kind of intro into fashion. I didn't know of it as fashion, and I didn't really care for fashion. I only loved like my Lacoste t-shirts, like polo shirts, because also like they made me feel very grown up. But my first kind of interaction with fashion was through these like handbags that my mom would like to get for her birthdays.
And you would take her handbags and look into them, see how they fit stuff. Tell me more about that. Like, what was it about that intrigued you?
It was really like, it started with the fact that they were expensive, and I was really intrigued by why it was so expensive, because it's not something that's really like I mean, it wasn't something like a car or something. And I mean, of course, they're not the same price as a car, but I was just really intrigued by why they were expensive. And that curiosity like made me really examine the handbag and see, what made them expensive. And, also the fact that my mom would really then, she, grew quite a collection by the time I like reached kind of my teenage years.
Yes.
And then what I really started to notice as well is like how she kind of would select different handbags for different occasions. And that kind of became really interesting to me as well to see, if you're going for like a nice dinner, she would always gravitate towards something that is smaller or like a clutch or something like that. If it was something that, we're going for like an entire day out, it was almost always like a carry-all, like a tote bag. So I started to realize as well that it's not just kind of luxury for luxury's sake. There is a purpose to these handbags as well. So this kind of got to me, but it wasn't something that I really focused on for a long time. It's something that something that became a lot more meaningful to me during like my experience, my first work experience basically in the industry.
I wanna get to that, but before I wanna go in a more chronological order.
Yeah.
During our teens is the time that we go through the most hormonal changes, so we feel stuff the most.
Yeah.
What were you like as a teenager? What do you remember? Do you remember connecting to specific
I was like
in a different way?
I remember very vividly that like I was a self-proclaimed like emo kid.
Really?
I feel like I was really like an emo kid. I got really into like Sum 41, Green Day, and like all those like pop punk bands. I was like a huge fan of Sum 41, and this was already like I think when I was probably 11 or 10. So I was really into that kind of scene. I remember like really loving like My Bloody Valentine and those kind of bands as well. So yeah, it was quite like that, but I just like the aesthetic of it, and I like the energy of it, and I like how emotionally vulnerable that kind of music was. So as a teen, I was kind of like that, but that at the same time, like I was full of kind of contradictions as well, because I was pretty good at tennis growing up, and also football. So I was like a football and tennis kid at the same time, and I was like wearing, as I said, I was a huge fan of like Lacoste. I still am, to be honest. I love how like a fresh like Lacoste polo makes me feel, especially in like a black or like a navy colorway. So I was wearing Lacoste and I was listening to like emo music, and I don't know, it was like very contradictory, really.
It would make you feel like an adult, you said earlier.
Yes.
What is it about the idea of an adult at such a young age that intrigues you?
I have no idea. I ask myself the same thing now that I'm actually an adult. Like, what was it? I think it's just like, I don't know, like something about responsibility and something about like having like a purpose in a way. I always saw my parents and they still to this day like have a purpose that guides them and that drives them. And somehow it's also like for my mom at least, it's become really like absent findings because she really helped me with the brand a lot. Also my dad, to be honest. But when I was a kid, like I saw so much purpose in them because, they wanted to provide me with a very beautiful life. They wanted to provide themselves with a very beautiful life, something that they had, imagined when they were younger. So I think it was just like this drive, this purpose for just doing things basically. And I think I really connected to that because in school, in high school, like everything at a certain time, like when I graduated from like listening to like Sum 41, I kind of moved on to listening to Elliott Smith, but at the same time, like a lot of Nirvana, and everything was very much like anti-capitalistic music. And I was like, what is the point of all of this? Like, what is the point of like studying? Like, what is the point of this? It felt very inconsequential, and it felt so because I didn't really find my purpose because of course I was a kid.
Yeah. So
It's sad.
to be at that age or to already be thinking and trying to find your purpose, and also when you're talking back about how you and your grandma would go to the park and you were such an attentive kid, and to want a workload that would make you feel like an adult, do you think that any of those things shaped the brand that you've created today?
Oh yeah, I think so. I really think so because this idea of kind of feeling like a grown-up and feeling responsible and feeling like you have a purpose, it really ties into clothing-wise. All of those emotions and all of those kind of values really tie into uniformity, like uniforms. You wear a uniform and you have a purpose now, right? You wear a uniform for a task that you have to do, right? So for me, like my internal monologue whenever I'm like kind of designing a new collection, even for the last collection, Fall Winter 26, it's always about like creating a uniform for creatives. Now, that's just the inner thing, right? It's not, of course, what I'm creating is not just for creatives, but at the same time, like everyone that feels aligned to the story of the brand is creative, you know? Even if they're like a dentist, there's some amount of creativity to it, I'm sure, right? But just a different kind of creativity. So I think it's a guiding light for me, and it's really good because it keeps me like kind of very honest, you know. And also, I think growing up, I was always like a very honest kid. Even when I would like cheat on tests and stuff, I would just like come back and tell my mom. And I even got caught multiple times, and I like never tried to like get away with it. I'd just be like, yeah, I did cheat. What are the consequences, you know? So yeah, I don't know if that answered your question, but yeah.
No, of course, it did answer my question. I really want to get into the idea of a uniform as a creative, but before we do that, because we still haven't even introduced your brand to people.
Yes.
I want to take it back to when you decided you were moving to Union. Mm-hmm. And you hadn't decided to actually study fashion.
No, not at all.
Tell me about that.
Not at all. It was like the most consequential time of my life. Not the time when I was like deciding to go to which uni I went to, but the time that I was in uni. So I went to the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign in Illinois in the US, and I went there to study accounting and finance.
And when you were deciding which uni you wanted to go to or what you wanted to do, what was your dream?
My dream was just to like be outside of Dubai, to be honest. Like I just wanted to kind of be on my own and like feel responsible, you know, like feel like I'm on my own, I'm responsible for my life, because Dubai as well, I mean, like sometimes it can really be a bubble of security, a bubble of plushness, right? And I feel like music has always been like a huge part of my life. I'm not a musician myself, but I think music is like the most pure kind of form of like showcasing who you are emotionally and your values, and you know what you really resonate with and what's important for you. So all the kind of music that I was like listening to was always very experimental, was always, you know, very heavy on emotion, very like self-exploratory as well. Like you're like exploring yourself, right? And I felt like I couldn't really do that when I was in Dubai. And one of the major reasons that I really wanted to leave Dubai and go to the US specifically was, of course, because of Hollywood films, but also because I just wanted to be like kind of away from Dubai and be in a place that I can really use to kind of explore myself. You know, that was always kind of the goal throughout my like senior like school basically. And I went to study accounting and finance because, as I said, in high school I was just like a ball of contradictions. Like I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life, but at the same time I was like decent at everything. So I got a good SAT score, and I was like, okay, like my dad is in kind of like telecom, and you know, if you know, worst case scenario, like I'll just go to a business school, get a business degree, and then like just get into telecom somehow through nepotism or something. You know what I mean? But yeah, like life had different plans, of course.
Tell me about the beginning of those different plans. So you moved to the US.
Yeah.
Around what, 3 semesters in?
3 semesters.
You sat on your laptop and something caught your attention. What was that?
Yeah, so I mean, it was interesting. It was 3 semesters in, you got that correct. And I was kind of doing everything other than the thing that I was supposed to be doing, right? So I was absent from going to class, absent from doing all of that, but I was fine with myself, right? And that's why it was such a consequential and such an important time in life, because I was really figuring out what I really wanted to do, basically. And what really caught my attention was, I mean, at this time, you know, I was really exploring not just, you know, like, not just psychologically or not just like what my real like goal in life should be wise, but also, you know, aesthetically. Like I was experimenting. I had different hairstyles during this time as well. I completely like shaved off my hair as well at a given time. Yeah. So
complete opposite from now.
Exactly, complete opposite from now. So I was really like experimenting, you know, and yeah. So around this time, you know, I kind of really learned how or not learned, but I really discovered for myself that getting dressed is something that I really enjoy, you know? And being dressed in a different way that kind of showcases who I am is something that I really enjoy. Because in the US, especially in like a college campus, there's like a real uniform, especially because also I was in a fraternity as well. So there was like a real uniform, like really like short shorts with like a polo, which I loved. It's okay. And like some very like topsiders. I like adhered to that uniform for a little bit of time. I bought some like boat shoes, but then I hated wearing those, and I was like, what am I doing? So like the way that I was dressing was really different to how all of my like friends were dressing in a way.
Can I just zoom in on that moment
Yeah.
for a second? Because I think a lot of people wouldn't expect you to have been part of a fraternity.
Yeah, no, I really experimented. I really did everything that I wanted to do outside of the classroom. Like I really experienced a lot, basically. That's it.
How important was that for you to actually find yourself? What level of depthness does one have to go into to be able to find their true purpose in life?
Oh my God, like I really, so when you join a fraternity, you have to be a pledge, like you're pledging to the brothers of the fraternity for almost an entire semester. So what that entails is like you go to their house and like you literally clean their dishes, you wash their bathrooms, you do stupid tasks that they give you to do. And all of this was somehow like me proving to myself that even if I lived a very plush and like cushy life in Dubai growing up, I can still do all of that, and I can still come out on the other side where like people were making fun of my accent because of course I grew up in Dubai and like American kids were like, I don't understand why you speak like that. So, being made fun of like that, but at the same time like being accepted by like my group of friends that became really close to me as well. And then really just like going through a lot together within that one semester, and then emerging on the other side of it in the second semester, being part of the fraternity, and then like feeling that pride for like maybe a week or two, and like feeling that bond, but then like really realizing like, why did I do all of that, to be honest? I mean, I made some really good friends, but I'm sure I would have been friends with them either way,
Yeah.
But yeah, I really like threw myself into things, and I went like all in. So I feel like that was very important for me because I feel like I really experienced a lot of things that my friends who kind of stayed back in Dubai didn't, And I feel like I kind of rounded myself off by experiencing a lot of things, like some things that weren't so positive, some things that were really positive, but in the end, like all of that kind of shapes the person you become,
Of course.
So yeah.
Well, amazing. And then, when was the moment? So you started dressing yourself, and you experimented a lot to try to get to know what your true passion, what your true goal in life is.
Yeah.
But was there a defining moment
Oh yeah.
where you realized this is what I want to do?
No, totally. So I started getting into Joy Division, the band, and I loved the sound. I watched the documentary on Joy Division as well, and it really kind of connected to me somehow. Just the attitude of, Ian Curtis and just how he was. I really connected to that, and through that, I discovered Raf Simons, my favorite designer.
And that was your first designer that you ever discovered?
That was like the first designer that made me feel something. Like that made me really feel like fashion is not just, kind of what I was exposed to in Dubai, where like rich people would just like flex. Like discovered Raf Simons was like, I don't know, it really moved something within me, and it really made me feel like fashion is like, it's more than that. It's about energy. It's about, shifting a mood inside a room when you walk in because of who you are, and that was like extremely empowering. And I think that left a real kind of mark in my head, and it made me crave for a place in a time that I had never seen, and that was like really powerful for me. And I felt like I want to be able to do that for other people somehow. So
I mean, at the end of the day, it's true. We all want to find our purpose and make a mark on this world, because the only thing none of us can escape is death at the end of the day.
yeah,
Once you die, if you haven't done anything that's concrete that could stay in this world, then you're just going.
yeah.
how did you discover Ralph Simmons? What was the first thing you saw that he did?
So I saw.
Project.
So there was like, of course, before like seeing the runway show, I had some of his like I had one of the Adidas collabs that I know you also have, right?
Big shoes
The
with
fit
an
balls.
bottoms.
Exactly. So I knew of them just in a kind of like sneakerhead kind of subculture way, you know.
Yeah.
I didn't really know who Raf Simons was. I just knew that the shoes are cool and people like the shoes, right? It was still the time when I was like experimenting and still like very much swayed by others' opinions, right? It's all a part of it. So I like first discovered Raf Simons like that. But then, as I mentioned, like the first time that I really discovered who Raf Simons is, what he stands for, what subculture does he like speak to, was because of Joy Division and like looking at the first show that I saw of his was, I think it was Black Palms, and it was like it was so energetic and it was so crazy. And then
What did it look like aesthetically? That show?
so Black Palms was like it was very beautiful. It was just like a lot of models. A lot of the looks were like completely white as well, and it was really interesting because it was very heavy on kind of like it was just heavy on the color white, and it was models emerging in a very like intense attitude, and that's what really spoke to me. More important that show was also another show that I saw, the collection that I'm kind of forgetting right now, but it was one of the shows where it was a huge set design for the show, and it had a lot of smoke, and there was like multiple layers to this show, to the set design, and it was all very industrial, and the music was very like intense as well, and it kind of replicated the mood of what I imagine kind of like the underground scene, the underground party scene of like Belgium or Antwerp, you know. That was kind of the show that really opened my mind to kind of the world of Raf Simons.
That was actually his shows. I looked it up after we talked about it last time. That was 2002, 2004.
Yes, exactly.
And the underground club culture is exactly what he was trying to portray in the
Yes.
show. So you read it
Yeah.
perfectly. While I was researching this, I went into Ralph Simmons' website and I saw a quote that he had written, which was, "I don't want to show clothes. I want to show my attitude, my past, my present, and future. I use memories and future visions to try to place them in today's world." What do you think of this quote? Is that something
That's
you
exactly
relate
it. Yeah, no, that's exactly it. And he's the master, you know, and that's exactly what I feel as well. Like, I don't want to showcase clothes. I often tell Laura, the art director of Apps and Findings and my partner, that, you know, we always have this question within us, like, whenever we like see a look on, you know, our fitting models, like, sometimes it's like immediately it's like, yeah, that's Apps and Findings. But then sometimes it's a little bit questionable, where it's like, is that Apps and Findings? And what we mean by that basically is like the flow of the look, you know, the beauty of the model as well plays an like very important role. The hair, you know, all of that. And the question means basically like, is that honest, and is that like, of course, because Apps and Findings is, I'm the designer, right? It's coming from my imaginary. The question, and for Lara, she knows me so well. The question really becomes for us that, is that me? Like, is that honestly me, or is it like some layer of pretense that's gone into that look? You know, is it pure?
How are you able to differentiate this? I mean, finding your DNA as a designer is such a big thing, and you've managed, I think, personally from the collections I've seen, to showcase that in such an amazing way. Like, everything just fits together and blends together so beautifully. But how do you make sure that the pure attention you were talking about is actually there? And what are the details you try to focus on to notice when something is not blending in well correctly?
You know, it's always, you have to define the silhouette of the collection, right? You have to define whether, you know, are you going for like a very like fit, like a very straight fit look, or are you going for like a more exaggerated look as the trousers kind of end in the bottom, you know? Are you going for something that's a little bit more tight on the top? And then you try to kind of keep that silhouette so that, you know, even if the lights are on and there's just like a light from the back, if you see the model, is that absent findings, just the silhouette, no details, nothing. It's that absent findings. So that is of course like the first, litmus test, because it is quite, I studied finance and accounting, so there's something mathematical to my process as well. So that's kind of like the first litmus test. Is that the silhouette, and does it, is it working for the entire story, right? So that is the first thing, and then of course the color story of the collection. Do the colors flow? Do they have the emotion that you're trying to communicate through the collection? Through the story. For example, the Lost collection, or a Fall Winter 26 collection. It's called Not What You Think.
Not what you think.
Yes. So already the story is like, okay, we've established a DNA for the brand, but we're in the process of of course, making our DNA concrete, making our values like concrete, but at the same time, we've just showcased 2 collections. Within 2 collections, you can't really encapsulate the entire story of absent findings. So it's not what you think, because of course we're going to be sticking to our roots, but at the same time we're exploring more, right? So for example, with the new collection, we have like 2 looks that are only for like women, right? We didn't do that in the past. In the past, all of our looks were very androgynous, right? They look good on men and women as well. So yeah, that's
This one is more specifically focused on women.
two of the looks. So it's very small because we have 18 looks in total. But it's a start for us, because like for the longest time I was very scared of like creating a dress or like making a dress. But this time I made a dress, So that's kind of the essence of Not What You Think. And it's also like a very dreamy collection. So when you see the collection, you will see that in the colors, in the silhouettes and stuff as well. And specifically with the hats as well. It feels like you're in a dream, especially with the film that we made. It's very dreamlike. So.
Made a film for your new collection.
Yeah, it's a short film. It's 3 minutes and 17 seconds. And it's going to be debuting at Milan Fashion Week, which we're really, really happy, and like we're very happy about that.
Yeah. Amazing. Congrats.
Thank you so much.
So is it going to be just the short film that's appearing, or are you also going to...
No, it's a short film, because for Milan Fashion Week, it's our first time being part of the main calendar. And I think oftentimes it's kind of like the way that they really decide if they want to give like a young talent kind of the platform of Milan Fashion Week is through like bringing them into the main calendar, but just having like a digital showcase. And then, if they feel like there is something to explore with that, then I think hopefully it'll graduate to like a show.
I'm sure it will. Especially I've seen, I don't know if the short movie you're talking about are those clips from the deserts with models that were being filmed in the desert.
Yes. Yeah.
Beautiful is that.
No, I mean, it's a beautiful location, and it's exactly what we wanted. We wanted it to feel like a dream, and we wanted it to feel like you wake up in a place in your dream, you feel like you're connected to it, you feel like you've been there before, but you can't place it, right? So
yours is something that you connect to a lot.
Oh yeah.
Subconscious mind,
Yeah.
dreams. Why is that?
I think the funny answer is I love sleeping, but the more like serious answer I think is I feel like I'm a huge fan of David Lynch, and I love the way that he looked at the world, and I really connected to one thing that he said, that ideas find you. You don't come up with ideas, like ideas find you. So you have to be receptive to ideas. When you get an idea, you have to write it down. Like he made it a point to whenever you got an idea, to write it down, because if you don't write it down, then you forget it, and then the idea will jump from your head to someone else's head, and if they execute better than you or before you, then it's their idea, right? So for me, like the best time that I receive these things and when I become a vessel is when I'm sleeping. It's the subconscious mind. It's just giving me ideas basically. So yeah, sleep plays an extremely important role, and then also like the art that I really connect to, it often tends to be like very surrealist art. I love, for example, Salvador Dali, Yves Tanguy, and also like Giorgio de Chirico. So all of these artists are like very surrealist, and they really focus on their dreams. So yeah, I try to focus on that as well.
Was there a specific dream you had that inspired absent findings?
Yeah. No, for sure. and it's a dream that was like a recurring dream as well, and it only stopped, I think, a year ago or something like that. And it was a very scary dream, to be honest. It was like, it wasn't gory or something, like I wasn't dying, but it was a dream in which I was in Dubai, and Aviation Club, that area, like next to the creek, there's the golf course, right? And then behind that is Irish Village. That area,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Okay,
yes.
so that highway, that road, like whenever I used to drive there when I was like not young, of course I wasn't driving when I was young, but after 18, whenever I would come back to Dubai, I had some friends who stayed in Sharjah and Gasset. I would go to like pick them up because I got my driver's license first. But that stretch of that road was always very like freaky to me because the speed limit was, I think it's 120, and the lanes are quite narrow compared to the rest of the lanes, and it's also quite curvy. So it was always like something that would slightly like make me nervous, right? But somehow like it came into my dream in a way that I would be on that road, on that specific road, and I'd be driving like a convertible car, which is cool, hell yeah. But it was like a 70s car, it was a red car, so it felt like, okay, like I've done good in my life somehow. But I was always in the back seat, and there was no one in the front seat. And I was driving the car because I had not even long arms, but I was just like stretching across the back seat to the front seat to grab the wheel and drive it. And it felt like I was always going to crash, but I was just like narrowly missing, you know? So it's like, okay, somehow what I took from it, also because it was a dream that repeated oftentimes, like I think I had the same dream for a very long time, since like basically the third semester of Illinois until I graduated from Polymoda, literally. So from basically, in a way, 2019 until 2023, 2022, I had that dream.
Wow. So you actually had this dream from the moment that I don't want to spoil it for them, I want you to tell them.
Yeah.
After you talked about raft events and you started discovering your love of fashion, what did you do?
So I have a very close friend of mine. She's still a very close friend of mine, Vedika. She was the only like friend of mine who was kind of pursuing, like a higher education in the arts. She was studying something with photography, but she was studying in Parsons in New York, which was like already so cool.
And you were still in America.
I was still in America, yeah. I was still in like, I think this is around my third semester. Like we started the third semester, and this is when I was like, what am I doing with my life, basically? And how I was having a lot of conversations with her, and I was asking her like how she's finding classes and like how are the people, la la la. And she was just like so positive about everything, you know. And for me, like internally thinking about it, or like going back to our conversations, once the conversation had ended, I would be like, okay, like I'm enjoying as well, you know, like I have my friends that are so cool, but the thing that I'm supposed to be doing, like the thing that I'm there for, I find no joy in, and I'm like fully withdrawn from, basically, right? So I was like, what can I change?
That's such a difficult feeling to have, you know. I feel like a lot of creative people go to uni for something that society has told us is an acceptable job to have or is a safety net to have. And then you're there and you're studying and it feels like that's all there really is to life. Like it feels so incomplete.
Exactly.
And that's how you felt?
That was the exact feeling, and I wanted to change that feeling. So I started to really think about fashion as a career choice, because I always thought of myself as an artistic child. I always had a good hand when I was young, even. You know, like my mom would like take my drawings to her work and like put it on her board, you know, and like everyone would comment on them as they were like passing by.
What did you used to draw?
Like a lot of Pokemon, a lot of like Beyblade characters, and just like Scooby-Doo I was obsessed with. And then like a lot of Tarzan for some reason, I don't know. But yeah, like majority of them were like different Pokemon for sure. I think I like memorized how to draw like Pikachu and all of that stuff as well. And I would like get into like shading and all of that, like drawing the Mystery Machine from Scooby-Doo and like really getting into it. So I've always had that, but I never like really pursued it. And my mom would always like make remarks that I never thought were serious remarks. I don't know why, to be honest, but I never thought they were like real remarks, you know, like she meant them. When I was like, for example, in middle school and high school, she was like, Shiven, you're so like good with your hand, like you should become an animator, right? And I always thought she was like messing around with me for some reason because I never even considered it like an option, and I don't know why. And I feel like a lot of it was kind of self-imposed, but a lot of it was for sure also coming from my dad, because my dad's like the serious person in our family. My mom is, she's like a lover of life. She really loves to talk, loves to be with people. And my dad is kind of like the more didactic one in the relationship.
It's also because when there's always two parents in the equation. Well, not always, but when there is two parents in the equation, one always has to take a role that of the stricter parent,
Yeah.
that the other person can push their child. But I feel like that's something a lot of parents may struggle with when they have a creative child and not wanting to push their kids too hard that it makes them hate their passion, but
Yeah.
too little that it doesn't make them follow their passion.
Yeah.
So where do you think that balance struck with your parents, where you ended up actually following your passion?
To be honest, so I mean, my parents never really put me into like art class or anything, because my mom, as I mentioned, she's really interesting and she's really cool, and she's like a best friend to me. So she always believed that like if a kid has like a talent, like there's no need for them to like pursue it academically, because then academics often has this tendency of kind of like stripping away what the naturality of that person is, and then like enforcing their own rules onto it, right? So this is how like my mom saw things. So she never sent me to art school or anything, or like art classes, which I mean, it's fine for me. But sometimes I think, because I don't love painting, but I have a deep appreciation for like painters and sculptors.
Like Francis Bacon, you were
Yeah.
talking to me about
Yeah.
that side.
Like I think Francis Bacon is like my favorite artist of all time. His work is so hauntingly beautiful, and also like just his character is something so layered with like meaning, and it's not so clear whether he's like I don't know, it's not so clear. You can't divide him into like a positive person or a negative person. It's in the gray area, and I really appreciate that.
Oh.
It's so raw.
I found, because we talked about Francis Bacon last time and I didn't know who he was actually, so I looked him up and I watched a bit of his interviews and looked at his different art pieces. And then a few days ago, when I was researching for this podcast, I found an art page that you have.
Yeah.
And your drawings are like the same metaphysical energy as his, and I can see the inspiration, but you never talk about that side that you've actually made. Beautiful art pieces. Why is that something you've chosen to have?
That's something that I just kind of, it's in a way the most raw version of me. I feel like often like I feel like I'm a pretty decent communicator, but I feel like a lot of the ideas that I have, I'm not able to like fully verbalize and fully communicate in a way that's like not going to come off bad. So I feel like a lot of that energy goes into like my artworks, but yeah, I mean, I feel like everything that I have dreamt of, like, I mean, not like dreamt of like life-wise, but like just the dream that I had like last night, there's some meaning to it, right? And I try to like recompose that and like work that into a piece that reflects that basically. And it can often be like an idea, or it could just be the aesthetic of a dream that I had, or it could be something that is very inspired by, kind of the works that I'm looking at or the movies that I'm watching or something. So yeah, and of course through my own taste and through my own kind of eyes and through my hands basically. But yeah, I mean, it's like it's something that I don't want to like put out there as like, yeah, I also do this, because I want to, of course, establish myself as a designer first. And that side of my like practice is kind of just for me, and I see it in a way as like a really beautiful documentation of my life, because people love to take photographs and people love to document life through photographs, which is so important as well, because you see other people. But I feel like I'm just narcissistic enough in the way that I am that I would rather document how I've been feeling throughout my life, throughout the different stages of my life. And I think it's a reflection of that, basically.
But I wouldn't necessarily call that narcissism. I would actually just say that that just shows the level of in-tuneness you have with yourself to notice that those feelings that we have in our subconscious are what truly makes us us rather than the superficial or physical material stuff.
Yeah, totally.
Going back to that dream that you were having,
Yeah.
that was the first time you had it. You were in America. You had to come back to Dubai.
Yeah. Yeah.
When was it?
So it was the first time that I was having that dream was in America. It was the third semester. I'm pretty sure when after completing the third semester, I changed the direction of my life.
You just dropped out.
Yeah, I dropped out and I told my parents after I kind of like did the deed.
You did it first. That's very brave. How did that feel? What was the process?
Scary.
Like Shiven in America, he's like
Illinois in the middle of like cornfields.
and like anyone who has a like Arab family, Indian family,
Yeah.
African family, like you know,
Yeah.
a second
it's crazy.
world, third world country, you know, you're calling up your parents, telling them the uni you sent me to America for finance and business. I left it.
You know, the thing is, I see and fully acknowledge the amount of privilege it takes to be able to do something like that. Because in the end, it's a big financial commitment that my parents made to, you know, sending me there as well. And I fully acknowledge that, and I hope someday I'll be able to really repay them for that. But I feel like they really see that the decision I made was something for the good, you know, for the best. Because I feel like now, I mean, they would be proud of me either way. Like, even if I was like doing a finance job or doing something in telecom or something, I'm sure they'd be very happy. But I feel like they really appreciate the person that I'm becoming with absent findings, because it really is kind of like my life's mission in a way, absent findings. It's so very personal and it's so very, you know, it's something so that drives me so much, right? Like, if I was doing something else, I would just kind of half-ass it. And with this, I'm willing to, you know, sacrifice in so many other things, basically.
Like what? What are the things you sacrifice on?
As I said, you know, I was very into quality. I love things that, you know, are made to last, basically, right? I like gave up on like, you know, like buying things. Even like I love clothes, but I don't feel the urge to kind of. So I'm not sacrificing actually because I'm literally making it. But what did I sacrifice on? Meeting up with friends, for example. You know, there's been often times where like, for example, the last 3 weeks making this collection before the day of the shoot, I had to like, you know, tell my friends that okay, I won't be able to come for this thing. I won't be able to go for this. Sacrificing on sleep, like working in the studio from like 9 a.m. until like 2:30 a.m. You know, not having like proper real conversations with Lara for that period of like 3 weeks, right? Just like kind of conversations about work and that's it. So there's, you know, different sacrifices that can't really be quantified, but you subconsciously feel them, but it's like you're willing to make it because it feels like it's the most important thing, you know? So yeah, I mean,
You know, that's something
Yeah.
no one really talks about, that anyone who's building a brand, following their passion, trying to create something that's not taking the traditional routes, they have to sacrifice so much of their time with their loved ones.
yeah.
And so much like health related stuff, like you said, like needing your sleep, and
Yeah.
sleep is also where you get your inspiration
Yeah.
from, but you have to, so that you're able to do the work that you want
Exactly.
to do.
Just like nutrition wise as well, like when I'm in that phase of work, then it's like I don't focus so much on like a proper diet of like 3 good meals or something. I just eat what's there and I just eat at random times, you know, and I'm sure it's not good for me. And also there's a very big thing as well, like financial insecurity as well, but when you're like doing something creative, right? When I was a kid, I thought by the time I'm 28, I'll have a sick car, I'll have like, you know, a beautiful like my own house that I live in, you know, and I'll be like fully like self-sufficient, which is like far from the truth, but it's like I'm completely fine with it because I feel like there's so much potential in absent findings that, you know, I'll achieve those dreams, but it's just going to take a little bit longer, and that's completely fine. You know?
Yeah, no, Shivan, I think something that shows the sacrifice that you're making and your dedication to the craft so much is when I came to your house, you invited me to your house, your studio for a meeting, and you were working on your third collection. And I asked you, I was like, you know, if your childhood self was so curious about why are these things so expensive? Why is your collection so expensive? And you showed me something. Do you remember?
I don't remember exactly, to be honest.
You opened your closet, the closet that was in the studio, and you're
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
please tell them. I wanted to hear it from your words.
So I mean, with Absent Findings, it's literally me and Sajid, who's the pattern maker that I work with, and the tailor, and it's just the two of us that can work in the studio and create everything basically. So everything that's kind of every garment that you've touched from Absent Findings has been literally made by me and by Sajid. Everything is made in that studio. Everything starts from scratch. It's all, beautiful dead stock fabrics that we're using, beautiful Italian dead stock fabrics that we're using. It takes us almost like 8 hours to 9 hours to construct a jacket, to craft a jacket. Yeah, I mean, it takes time, it takes a lot of effort, it takes, we use only the highest end things, like the accessories are all YKK buttons, YKK zippers. Now we have some beautiful buttons for shirts and coats are like mother of pearl buttons, very artisanal, very, in a way, precious as well, but they go with the collection so beautifully. So, I mean, there's cost and there's time and there's, real people working on the clothes. And the real people are 2 people, essentially.
Crazy.
So it's that, I mean, all of that really does add up, and that's why the clothes that Absent Findings makes, I mean, they're meant to last with you, like, for example, the thing that I'm wearing is Absent Findings. It's a sample piece. I never get like a piece that's kind of the final piece. I always get the pieces, I always keep the pieces that are work in progress, Like, for example, for this one, we added something over here on the final piece and we changed this fabric out for a different fabric. I don't get to keep that for myself because I can't afford to keep that for myself, So, like, for example, like the younger generation in like Dubai that you meet at Seoul and Red and all of that, oftentimes I can see the look in their face where it's like they love the clothes, they love how they feel in the clothes, especially the jackets. But I can see from their eyes that it's expensive, and I know it's expensive. I can't help it. I would make it way cheaper, but it's not possible because in the end it is something which is, which should be, it's a financial thing as well. It's not art, it's not like fine art where I'm just kind of doing it for the sake of it. I'm not that privileged to be able to do that, So yeah, it's...
No, this is exactly the thing. Like, when you told me I can't even afford the clothes that I make, no, but it got to be it.
Yeah.
Because it showed how much you're so dedicated to the actual, like, making and the art behind the clothes that you're making. It's amazing. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, everything that we do, like, we give it our 100% and we make it so that it lasts forever. Like, I'm a huge believer in kind of like wearing the things you love, even if for example, like, I have 3 or 4 jackets that are like my favorite jackets, and I always have them in repeat, like in my, like, outfits, whatever. And these 3 jackets are expensive jackets, right? But I don't need more jackets, right? So I keep myself constrained, but at the same time I wear what I love, and I wear the stories that come along with that. So that is what Absent Findings is trying to do. Like, it's not for... Absent Findings isn't for people, unless they can, of course, afford it. Absent Findings isn't for people who are like, looking for a new jacket for a special dinner or something. Absent Findings is for people who love their clothes, who see meaning in that, and they, make it work for different occasions, basically. It's for people who are obsessed.
It's an investment as well.
Yeah.
It's an investment in a piece of art rather than just another jacket that you're putting on that after maybe 3 years you got bored of it.
Exactly.
That's not what it is.
Yeah.
I feel like something that would make people really understand what type of people are the people that buy Absent Findings is the first... You were talking earlier about, like, maybe it's more dentists.
Yes.
Your
Exactly.
first customer. Tell us that story.
So, like the very first customer of Apps and Findings was at Bread, and it was this guy who was a dentist, and he like very unassuming, you know, like from the silhouette, like super unassuming, like very chill. And as he was approaching closer, I was like, I noticed his shirt, and then I noticed his pants, and then I noticed his shoes, and he's wearing a Yoji Motor shirt, and it was so beautiful. And he like, as soon as I like clocked that, I was like, okay, this guy, like, I need to talk to him. He came into our booth, and I just like got to talking. I told him about how much I like the shirt. I asked him, is it Yoji? He said yes. And I clocked the shoes as well. I was like, are those, again, he was wearing Adidas Raf Simons, but those Vigo 2s. So they have like the Converse like outsole, and the top is, it's also canvas, but it's not like the Oswegos that we have. It's a different one, and it's all black with like a chrome kind of thing. Okay, so they're very beautiful as well.
You know those Raf Simons? I actually bought them when I was in Florence.
Really?
No, which is
that's crazy.
Crazy circle of
That's
life.
really weird.
It's insane.
No, but that's the thing. Like, I think recently it's been happening so much that you know, like random connections, and I feel like there's so much. It's interesting. It's really interesting. It's yeah. But so this guy, this is the guy. So I follow him on Instagram. We exchange numbers and everything. And he's a dentist from Fujairah. And I thought he was working in fashion or in the arts or something, you know. And he just told me, no, he's not doing any of that. He's a dentist. He's from Fujairah originally. And he loves photography. And he takes very beautiful pictures every time he's traveling. He posts really amazing stuff on his Instagram, and I'm always liking it. But that was like the first customer, and I, convinced him on that day to try on one of our jackets, the uniform laser. And I was just like showing him, I was telling him about, the fact that it's all canvas construction with like a beautiful shoulder, everything's made with that stock fabrics, and just trying to like not sell, but just telling him about the craft, because I felt like he would appreciate it because of what he was wearing and the way that he was talking to me as well. He was very receptive, and then I was showing him the different ways that he can style this jacket as well, and I think that really convinced him. And then he like ended up taking a video of the jacket, and he said he has to get like confirmation from his wife, which I thought was really cute. And then he like went out and took a walk, and I was like, okay, maybe he'll come back, maybe not. But then right before like us kind of starting to pack up for the day, he came back and he's like, okay, I'll take that jacket. So I was like, wow, I was really happy. Yeah, that was my first customer. Yeah. It was also like the first person that kind of really took interest in the story of the brand outside of my friends and family. So it was really kind of memorable. Yeah.
That's amazing. The way that like your customer could just stick with you, especially when there's meaning behind the brand that you're creating and you're not just selling something to make money off of it. It shows the whole world you're trying to create is not just a brand, so it's a world. It's Shiven's artistic world. And such a
it's not even Shiven's world, it's like it's a world that I feel like the sentiment of Apps and Findings is so prevalent in kind of all of us, all of us are creatives here. And all of us come from families that could be comparable, in their values and the way that we've been raised up and all of that. And I feel like it's for kids like us, basically, who are not kids anymore in their mid to late 20s, but still, it's about that, it's that world.
Yeah, it's true. I want people to see that journey that you explained to the dentist.
Yeah.
So take us back to when you left uni and you connected with a friend. Yeah. She was your only friend that was in the arts industry.
Exactly. Yeah. Studying arts. Yeah. Studying the arts.
And you had no idea, like you were like, okay, I want to do fashion.
Yeah. And that's.
They're like, where do I start?
Dude, that's literally it. Like, I didn't even know there was like London College of Fashion. I didn't know there was. I knew Parsons had a fashion program because like Vedika was in Parsons, and I thought it was the coolest thing because it's in New York. So I was like, I told her that I want to go to Parsons for fashion. She was like, Shiven, it is quite hard to get in. It's like, what does it entail? She was like, you need a portfolio. I was like, okay, like, how do I start?
Did you know what a portfolio was?
I knew what a portfolio is, but I didn't know how to like make one, of course. But then she just, she guided me a little bit, and then of course like a lot of YouTube and all of that stuff. So like, did my research, figured out that even fashion schools, they like to see your hand in multiple different mediums. And as I mentioned, I was always like a good draftsman, like good drawer. So I drew my collections, and I like also incorporated kind of like portrait drawings that I did, some mixed medium stuff. Like I didn't know how to like do watercolor, for example, but my mom is like she loves watercolor. She prefers it way more than oil because oil is very stiff for her, and she has like a back issue. So she said that watercolor really helps her, and it's very soothing as well. She kind of like taught me how to control that basically, and I like incorporated some of that into my portfolio as well. I had nothing to do with, in a way, like constructing garments or anything. I never sewn before that. I never even like knit or something. Never even like hand sewed anything. So but I did make like a collection which was inspired, but it was so random, really. So it was inspired by my trip to Masai Mara. And like I wanted to be like very avant-garde, but I didn't even know what avant-garde meant. So I was like, okay, I'll make like a bubble, and it'll be like super artistic and super cool. And I like was very proud of it, of course, and during that time. But there were like two inspirations basically. There was my trip to Masai Mara, and there was The Shining from Stanley Kubrick. And I was like completely like clashing as well. I was like,
And in the same collection.
and the same collection. So there was like it was like a tuxedo with like a pocket square that's red, that's just like floating out from that one scene in The Shining where the elevator opens and then there's like a lot of blood gushing out. So it's that, and then something that is completely green because of it was green and yellow because of Masai Mara, and it didn't really. So Masai Mara is this place in Kenya. Like people go there for like safari and all of that to see like the big seven. I think it's the big seven, like the big seven animals.
Okay.
There's the elephant, lion. I think cheetah is one of them as well. Don't quote me on that, but yeah, there's seven animals, and you are in a jeep and you're going around and like you see animals, and it's very cool. It was like, it's my favorite trip up till now.
Really?
Yeah. So that was one of the inspirations, and it's so random to be honest, but I feel like there was like a direction, you know?
And there was artistic meaning behind what you were doing.
There was a concrete kind of inspiration as well, which was very, very visible. And I think that really worked for me. And I think also like the drawings themselves were nice, to be honest. Like I compared my portfolio after getting into Polymodo with my classmates. I was like, I have a better hand than you. It's okay. So I was able to showcase that, and then I had my interview with a teacher. His name's why am I blanking now?
Don't worry. Take your time.
Johannes. His name is Johannes Egler.
Yes.
He's a Austrian, and he was the sweetest person. So I had my interview.
That was your first interview. So what you had to do is your portfolio.
Yeah, my portfolio.
And you just submitted it to the uni.
I submitted my portfolio to Polymodo, to university, to London College of Fashion, to CSM. They have the same like application process, I believe. I didn't apply to Antwerp because I didn't know it existed. I didn't apply to FIT because I had a weird feeling about FIT because I wanted to go to Parsons, and I was like, maybe FIT is like a lower version of Parsons. It was very good in my head. So I didn't apply there, and also I missed the application deadline for that. And then I applied to Polymodo, and I applied to a couple more places in the UK. And Polymodo was like definitely like one of the first choices because when I was a kid, I really wanted to be in a place with very narrow streets, and everyone is walking on the streets with like extremely old buildings. I had never been to Italy before that, but I imagined Florence, and like looking at the pictures, I was like, that's exactly what I imagined when I was a kid, So I was like, okay, if I get in here, I'll go here.
Wow.
And yeah.
And then, how long did it take for you to get your first interview?
So I don't remember the exact kind of like time it took, but I'm sure it was like enough to make me very anxious.
Back then you were back in Dubai.
I was back in Dubai, and I was just kind of like, I'd applied, and I was just like keeping my fingers crossed, and I was like, it was a moment that was like very scary, very like, I didn't know what I was going to be doing with my life basically. And I also had this question whether like, will I even get into a school at this point, right? Because my dad, he just said one thing when I like was making the switch. He was like, so Shiven, like you worked really hard. I didn't really work that hard to get into the university that I went to. I really kind of like phoned it in, to be honest, but I ended up getting a good score, and I made it happen to go to QAUC. he was like, and UIUC at the time had like a really good accounting program and a finance program. So his only thing was like, you went to a really good school over there, you got admission there, but I'm not like, you can go to fashion school, but it has to be a really good fashion school. You know what I mean? So that was the only thing. So I only applied to the best ones basically. So yeah, so it was like enough time to make me very anxious about whether or not I will even get into a university.
What was the energy like in the house?
It was quite tense, to be honest. It was really tense. I mean, my mom was, of course, questioning what I'm doing, right? But at the same time, I think it was all like grounded in a lot of faith, you know. It was heavy. Like the air was heavy for sure.
Faith in you or faith?
Faith just in general, yeah. Yeah. So it was quite heavy. Even like I remember like dinners and like meals together. It's like very small, kind of like small conversations, not getting into too many like deep things, just keeping it very light. Because I think my parents as well, they felt like they were walking around or on eggshells when they were talking to me, because I was very like sensitive in that moment, because I was really going through it internally, because I committed to like dropping out of UIUC, so there was not like a fallback at all anymore, right? So yeah, I mean, I was just like, maybe I'm just a failure in this moment, So yeah, it was quite heavy, to be honest.
I love that you're saying that, because a lot of like now you're 3 collections in and you're clearly doing amazing. But it's to show that there is a point where you felt like you might fail.
Oh no, for sure. Yeah.
It's so important, because everyone has that at some point in their life, and they're like, it looks so picture perfect to everyone else from the outside. Like, oh, look at all these people succeeding and doing this and doing that. Why do I not know what I want to do? What if I don't get in? What if I'm not good enough? Like all these feelings that all of us as creators, especially because it's not like math. It's not, when you're in school, your math exams, you can get a 20 over 20 or 100 over 100. But a history exam or a literature exam, you could never get a 100 because there's no definite way of claiming that something is good enough. So there's no definite way of you knowing that you're good enough to get somewhere.
Totally.
So I love that you're sharing that with us. Thank you.
No, of course. I mean, what I realized over the past years is like the more vulnerable I am and the more honest I am, that is the only thing that matters, to be honest. Because fashion and art is so subjective. It's just about telling your story and telling it in a way that you feel like you can make other people connect to it, and that's what carries weight, right? I've become a very vulnerable person, basically, and I'm very happy to share. If someone takes interest, I'm very happy to share. I'm very happy to even overshare if I feel like it's the right moment to kind of do that. So yeah, it comes quite naturally to me now, because I think it's what matters. In arts, it's what matters. Like, I don't feel a connection to Nirvana because the music was perfect. I feel a connection to it because Kurt Cobain was such a weird and crazy conflicted soul, and that is what I connect to.
And even the sounds of his guitar, the way he would strum, it was very raw and distorted, and it felt like you had access into his mind through the music.
Through his voice, his voice would literally crack at the end of songs, and you'd be like, why did he keep it there? Because he was striving for that crack, in that voice, and that's beautiful. I mean, I feel like anything perfect is not worth having, because it's okay, what's the soul? Where's the soul in that?
Exactly. It's exactly how Rick Rubin was asked about the use of AI in music in a podcast, and he said that he spoke to 5 AI specialists, and they told him that AI is going to get to a point where it's so perfect that it's going to be one song. Because the perfect song can only be one. So the imperfect is what's going to make art shine. They can't exist under perfection.
Totally.
So you did that interview with Johannes, and what was that interview like? You didn't go to fashion school, you didn't do anything. You're sat in front
of not even stitching at all beforehand.
And even the normal, uni interview
not
is stressful.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, Johannes was the coolest teacher. He taught us draping in the first semester of Polygonia, and he was just such a nice presence. He was like a dad, literally, and he was just Shiven, I can tell you're very nervous. Just relax. Feel don't think of it as an interview, and just tell me about what you were thinking while you like working on your portfolio, and like, you know, what is your kind of end goal after graduating from Polymoda, and like why are you doing this? So, you know, he made it very easy for me to be like very kind of honest, right? And I told him that, you know, I was pursuing this, la la la, and then I felt like this is not what I wanted to do, and that's why I'm doing this. And you know, I feel heavily connected to the world of so and so designer, and I want to create something in lines with that, which is very emotive and something that is very specific, you know. And I think that really kind of helped him make his decision in a way, because I think that's what is needed in fashion, in any art form, something specific. Like, you know, it can't be something that everyone likes, you know. It should be something that either someone hates or someone loves. That's what is beautiful, because if someone just feels like, that was okay, then what's the point? You know, like there's no emotion that is being evoked by that. There's no point. And I think he also liked my portfolio enough. I was very scared about the fact that I didn't know how to sew, you know. So I've like made that very clear. Like I think I said it multiple times. You know, I've never sewn before, so I'm very scared about this. He said, "Don't worry. Like that's the least of the concerns you should have. We look for kids who have no background in this. We just want to see how they think about things, and whether or not they're open to like learning the way the Polymoda kind of way of doing things, you know." So for him, I think it was very clear, because I was just like a blank sheet basically, you know, but a blank sheet of good quality somehow, you know.
Wow. Okay, and then when did you find out you got it?
Like literally after the interview, he told me, "Shiven, you got in, so you can chill." I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." But I'm quite superstitious as well. So until something is like done,
Concrete.
I can't be like happy, you know. So I was like still quite stressed out. I told my parents that I like literally told my parents. So he said I got in, but I don't know. So, but the same evening, like I got the email from Polymoda, like confirming that I'm in. So I was like really happy, and it was really interesting as well, because my parents are very much like me. Until something is concrete, they don't take it seriously. So even if I told them this, they probably thought, maybe shouldn't misheard, you know? I don't know how you can mishear like you got in, because it's like 3 words. But they were still quite stressed out, and the email hadn't come until quite late in the evening, because like at least 3 hours behind us.
Yeah.
And I think they probably sent out the email around 8, so it was like 11 or something here in Dubai. And I remember like we had a house help. Her name was Raima. She's very religious, and she would pray, you know, like in the times that she had to pray, she prayed. And she could see that my mom was tense, and she like knew that that day was a big day for me. So after the interview, she prayed, and then like literally before getting the email, she also prayed. So yeah, it was like, it's weird how it worked out, really.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did that affect your opinion on religion in any way?
Not really. I'm not a religious person, but I'm a very objective person. But I'm also like very ambitious. So I feel like if anything can kind of, I don't know, like it might sound bad, but I feel like if I have a goal for myself, and I see a path to like realizing that goal, I will take it, you know. Like if I feel like, I don't know, it's so bad, but I feel like sometimes when I'm like waiting for something to happen, I'll pray for it, you know. But I'm not like religious, but at the same time I can come to balance that, and I can make it seem good in my head, because I just believe in like being a good human being.
Yeah, so karma, good karma.
Yeah, just karma, exactly. I just believe in that, and that's kind of it. And I feel like, yeah, it like works for me. So I don't believe in a god or something, but I just believe in having a good energy and having like good intentions. I think intentions matter a lot, because as I said, you know, oftentimes I feel like certain ideas or certain thoughts that I might have, because I am quite often like just in my head, if I like verbalize them and I tell them even to like my closest friend or my like, or even to Laura, I don't know how she will take it, you know. But my intention is never to. Yeah, for sure. And the thing is, like, I've always come from a pure intention, you know, and I never want to hurt someone, but I also want to be able to verbalize my thoughts, right? But oftentimes it is quite difficult, like, especially when there's like complex emotions, complex things. It's sometimes tough to say it, you know. But I really believe in like what is the intention of the person, even when like someone is confronting me or like talking to me about something difficult. Like, what is their intention? Do they have like a positive intention, and do they mean it in a way that is constructive rather than just like putting someone else down? I don't care for that. Like, I'm never going to be receptive to that, to be honest. Like, if someone is just like coming at me for like just coming at me, it's like, okay, I don't need you, you don't need me. Let's walk on. Right?
Yeah, fair enough. Tell me, so you got into the uni,
Mm-hmm.
you traveled to Florence,
Yeah.
and you're walking on your first day.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Oh my god, like it was a completely different world. Also, like, you know, growing up in Dubai, there was always like a somehow a uniform, like literally a uniform in high school and middle school. But then also like on the weekends when we'd like hang out, there was always like a style, you know? Like if you're wearing skinny jeans, like your friends are also probably wearing skinny jeans. If you're like wearing shorts that are really short, probably your friends are also wearing shorts.
100%.
But-
That was the style when we were younger.
Exactly. So in Polymoda, like the first day that I entered, like the school, it was like I saw my seniors and I saw like this one guy who was super tall. His name's Sway, and I think he works for Mobile right now. Like very closely works with this designer, and he was so tall and he had such a big presence, you know. And he was wearing a T-shirt that said Pornhub. I was like, whoa, that's so cool and so edgy and so weird. And then I entered my classroom and he's literally like a once in a generation kind of talent, this guy. His name's Julian, and he was like dressed so immaculately. He was carrying like a vintage Hermes bag, which is like, you could tell that it's been passed down through his mom, probably like through his grandmother to him somehow. And he was wearing like some vintage like Armani jeans or something, and it was just really insane. And then there's another friend of mine, his name's Inman. He was wearing some Andamil boots, and it was the first time that I like saw someone wearing Andamil, even if it was just like boots, you know. So everyone was like dressed so well and so specific, you know. And it really was like they like live in the worlds of the designers that they admire. You know what I mean? And that was really special. Like that was really interesting.
And what were you wearing?
I think to be honest, I was wearing something very basic. I don't know. I'm quite insecure about my height. Yeah, I'm quite insecure about my height. So I was wearing like a pair of like Hogan shoes because my dad like recently got some Hogan shoes and he was like, "You want some as well?" I was like, "Okay, cool." I don't care for Hogan or anything. But these shoes like they give you like a little boost, you know, in your height. So I was like, okay, I'll wear those. And the colorway was really beautiful. Like it was like a really nice like blue leather, and pretty worth it what I was wearing. I think I was wearing probably those, and I had some like nice trousers from COS, and I paired that with like a old band T-shirt of Ramones, and I tucked them into my trousers. And I used to wear like my trousers really high up, and then I always like when I would cuff my pants, I would always like put a safety pin there, you know. So that was kind of like my look for that time in my life, in a way, yeah. So I think maybe I was wearing something similar, and maybe with like a vintage leather jacket or something. I think that was the look, yeah, probably, yeah.
How does one build together an entire look like that? Like if I was going shopping at the mall, and I wanted something that was gonna make me represent my personality, fit well on me. How do I do that as someone who has no knowledge on the field and is trying but can't get that look whenever I buy anything?
So first of all, I feel like, you know, someone who doesn't have any knowledge wouldn't even try to do that. They would just go for something like quite easy and basic. But if someone really has like an intention to like achieve like a look, or like, for example, like when I was younger, I really like loved skate culture, and I really liked watching like skate like videos. I was really into like Supreme skate videos and Palace skate videos and all of that because it was so rebellious and it was everything that I couldn't do in Dubai. So I would try to like emulate that somehow. So I would always get like vans and I would like try to distress them on my own. And I knew enough about skateboarding, having never skated in my life, but I had a skateboard. I knew that like when people would like pop an ollie, they would always have to do this with their right leg or left leg, depending on what their dominant leg was.
Yeah.
And they would like make holes over here, you know? So I tried to do that. I tried to make holes in my shoes like that. So just about like what you're going for and like how much you want to kind of commit to it. And you can really like, I mean, if you're going for like for example, like last year there was like a time when like everyone was kind of like getting back into like snow strippers and all of that, and they're like getting into like indie sleeves, like Hedy Slimane kind of era, so like really skinny jeans with like some boots. You can replicate that look, and you can like get stuff from even like H&M, like try to replicate it. I mean, it's not going to be exactly what you imagine, also based on your body type and stuff. But I feel like if you have a look and you are like not really into fashion, and you're going to a mall, I think you just need to know kind of like the proportions that you're going for and like find the right fit for those. And that's
There's very specific, like you look at the sewing of something to make sure it's gonna fit nicely,
No, I
and
mean,
tips like that.
just try it on, like just see the fabrics that are, you know, your favorite things. Like for example, I love wool and I love like a heavy like textured cotton somehow. Like this is a fleece. It's not really a fleece, but it's like a heavy cotton, right? And I love like wool, so these are kind of like wool flannel, not really wool flannel, but like wool blend pants. And you just like figure out what you love and the fabrics that look good on your body, because something really like floaty and silky I don't think would look really good on me right now, you know. So I try to go for something that has a little bit more structure up top, and then something that's kind of like chilled out in the bottom, basically.
Super interesting.
Yeah.
Going back to Florence, that's where you met your girlfriend Laura.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, that was really interesting. So we met once before in my final year of following Moda, but there was no like connection. There was no sparks, nothing. But we like always stayed in touch in a way, like just Instagram, you know, like liking each other's like posts every now and then, that kind of thing. But then after I graduated, I came back to Dubai for a little bit of time while I was like applying for internships and like jobs and stuff like that. So I was like, I thought my chapter in Florence is done, like it's closed. Because I was also like, I would like to explore like a new place, you know. I really wanted to go to London, for example, because all my designers, like all my favorite designers are based out of London. So I was like, I would love to explore that and work over there. But then like I applied for an internship at Gucci and I got the role. So I moved back to Florence for that, you know, and I like didn't imagine that I would move back to Florence. I was like done with that chapter, you know, but like Florence wanted me back, so I went back to Florence and I started my role in the handbags department over there. And yeah, it was again like a weird time moving back to Florence because all my friends, like all my classmates and all my like core group of friends had moved away from Florence because they got roles in different places. You know, either they moved back home and then they moved similar to me to a different place where they got a role.
Yeah.
Or, you know, they just kind of stayed back in their place. But no one kind of moved back to Florence after graduating, at least from like my friends group, right? So it was like a really lonely time. But I would love to, like, I love going on walks and I love going on runs. And it was just like a random day, like, I think it was a weekday. It was a weekend, probably a Saturday. And it was really sad actually that moment because like I hadn't like a real group of friends during this time. And I would just like get really dressed up, like where like I love getting dressed up, you know, especially when I'm like in good shape comparatively. I like to really get dressed up and it's like it makes me happy, you know. So I would like really get dressed up and just like go on walks and like listen to music. And Florence is a beautiful place to do that. So I was just on a walk and I like was passing by this like gelateria, and like this ice cream place, which is really famous in Florence. It's like the most famous one, and the gelato is very tasty. Gelateria La Carraya, and it's so good. It's so good, really. And I was passing by, and Lara was there. I was like, oh my god, a familiar face, you know. And we got kind of reacquainted that evening. We went out for some drinks, and I was like, okay, like then there was some sparks, you know. And Lara, interestingly enough, was also in a very similar space where she was, you know, in a way back in Florence, and she was doing an internship in a photography studio, and she was also like, you know, finding her space in the space again, you know. So we met each other at like a very similar moment in our lives, basically, and yeah, like that second kind of meeting was when we were like, okay, like it's interesting, like it's fun to hang out.
And then you guys fell in love.
Yeah.
And you started working together, which is very impressive and something I feel like a lot of people would wonder, like, how do you do that?
It's tough. Yeah, you know, it's tough, but it's fun. It's funny. Yeah.
Tell me about it. Like any tips, any things that you guys have agreed on so that you can separate the relationship from work.
No, I mean our work and relationship is extremely intertwined. Also because it's so personal, you know.
Yes.
Hey, it's extremely intertwined, and there's no way of separating it. At least for me, like there's not a concept that like you don't take your work outside the studio to the room or something, or to the living room or something. Doesn't exist. But I think the most important thing is that I have enough trust in her that I know that she wants the best for Apps and Findings because she is fully invested like I am. And she knows that, of course, I'm fully invested in it as well. You know, so we see this thing that we're building together in a way. And the interesting thing is, when we first met, in my opinion, not in Laura's opinion, but in my opinion, we were quite different. Like our taste was quite different. Our influences were quite different. We were just like quite different people. But in a way, we've like evolved to be quite similar. You know, our tastes have evolved together to like things, but it doesn't mean that we have the same taste. No, not at all. But I think the values have become very similar. And the taste side of things, it is in a way like coming together parallelly, but at the same time there's a complete facet to her taste that I don't really see, and I have my thing as well. But at the same time, you know, every time when I show her something that she doesn't know, she's very receptive to it, and likewise from her side to me as well. So this way we keep evolving and we keep kind of adding to our palette of, you know, work and creativity. And it's really beautiful in a way. It works super well, but it's like fully intertwined with our lives.
No, but it's amazing because it's, you know, nowadays people always talk about topics like who should work, the woman or the man should both go to work, and the fact that you guys are building one world together.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how it should be because you're meant to come together, build one family maybe together, be one together, build one business together. It's that like type of unity. It's like your uniform.
Yeah, totally, exactly. And it's really, I mean, there's so much trust between us because she never questions like my decisions when it comes to the clothes themselves, and I tend to not question her taste when it comes to, you know, the visual language of the brand, which is so important. You know, the visual communication. For example, the film that we're going to be debuting on 20th, it's directed by her. The script is by her. My only thing was that I wanted to feel like a dream, you know? And then she took that and ran with it, basically. So, yeah, it's like, I think trust is the most important. And you can't rush that. You can't try to enforce that as well. Like, you have to feel it. So, yeah.
Going back to Florence at university, what was the first project you ever worked on?
So for the first project, we have to, the first like creative project that we had to do was to make a dress, and just make a dress in muslin, so not even like real fabric, just the fabric that you use for like prototyping and just like playing around basically. But other than that, we had like the first project, for example, for our
Can I just pause?
Yes.
That dress, so interesting to me because when we first started this conversation, you were saying that it took you so long to feel like you can construct a dress, but your first project ever was in dress.
Wasn't dress, but it was incomplete dress.
Tell me about that project. How did you build it? What was the story behind it?
So I remember the thing was that we had to make a dress that fit a certain kind of subculture, and it was supposed to fit into that subculture in a very real way while still pushing the silhouette and pushing the details and pushing the artistic side of things, basically. I think I had punk as my subculture. So
And would they give it to you, or would you choose
they would give it to you.
Oh,
So it was
that's
like it was like a combination. So they said that these are the subcultures. For example, like I think there was like biker, and there was in a way like skate culture, and then there was punk music, and there was different things basically. And like our design teacher told us that these are the subcultures. Now like select which one works for you, and then we developed the collection, not the collection, the dress basically together. So I think I chose punk, and yeah, I mean it was really interesting. Before that, we had to make just a very basic like princess seam kind of dress, very simple, very easy, and then we had to do this basically. And it's very interesting because I think the visual language, ever since that first dress, has still kind of remained with me, even with absent findings, which is very interesting. It could be either that I'm very consistent in my artistic language, or that I'm very lazy. I hope it's not the second, but I think it's the first for sure.
It's the second. Considering everything you've done, I doubt it's the second one.
No, but yeah, the first dress, I think I showed you a picture of it. Like it was incomplete, as I mentioned, because I really procrastinated as well on that. But it was something that was like very simple up top, and then midway through there was a lot of volume with a lot of gatherings, and then it kind of shifted into something that was like very calculated and pleated, but like curved pleats.
Yes.
So it was really a beautiful dress that I'm sure I will realize soon enough.
And how did you make it? Like, what would you do? Did you make it at university?
No.
They provided sewing machines?
So yeah. I mean, in university we had sewing machines, mannequins, and everything, and we had everything that we needed to kind of create it. So I started creating it in university in Polymoda, and the way that they kind of made us do it for this project was to make it in a small kind of form, small mannequin, so that it's more easy and you can,
So it's like a
tiny one, not a child, no, like a tiny one, like on a table it'll be like this size. So you make it on this form, and then basically you just have to scale it up, right?
Yes.
So that was how it was supposed to be done. I didn't do it that way because I didn't manage to finish it in this form, and we had maybe 2 days and I really wasn't able to finish it. And then it was time to like really, people started to move on, but it was not just me who was able to finish it. My entire group of friends wasn't able to finish it as well. So I think in a way we were like really keeping each other back. But I remember like, for example, Julian like was done with it and like already started on the main mannequin and like was killing it. One of my very close friends, Mariah, was like really struggling to the point of like breaking down, but she managed to finish it. But I think I was just like me and my friend, we were just like off this thing like, okay, like if you're not able to manage it, it's fine, we'll finish it on the big mannequin,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I then like took my work back to my like, it wasn't really an apartment, my room, the first semester. And I was like working there as well. So yeah, I mean, I managed to showcase it, but it was still like the top half was sewn together. The bottom half was also sewn together to the back, but the last bit was still pinned, like it was still pins, So yeah, that was the first project. It's not like the highlight of my work by any means, but it was the first project.
But it's a start, and I think it shows like the evolution that you need, like all the hard work that you put into your work every single day, all the practice that you're doing. That's what led you to be able to create apps and find it. If you didn't have that half-sewn dress in the beginning, that you wouldn't be able to arrive to your collection.
For sure. I think really, I also got really serious about my school in this like midway through the second year is when I really got serious about it because until the first year, I was still quite shocked and like in the exploring phase of Florence. So it's always like a pattern with me. Like when I'm supposed to be doing something very specific, I lose my focus and I like start looking at everything else that the place has to offer or like the opportunity has to offer. But then halfway through the second semester was when I was like second year was when I was like really heads down where to the point that like my fashion illustration teacher was also like, "Shit, something changed." Like I just got really like focused into like my work and like really start to go really deep into it. Yeah.
Amazing. And then was it in your second year when they gave 10 kids a capsule collection?
No, it was the third year. It was the third year for the handbags, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it was the third year. So
That was your first time working on a handbag.
it wasn't the first time, but it was like the first time that I created or made like a proper handbag. Before that, we were working on shoes. That year, we started with shoes and then moved on to handbags, right? So I'd already worked with shoes to create like a prototype of a shoe. I made a mule first, and then I made a very ambitious shoe, which I still have in my room. I'll show you it sometime when you're in my studio.
Can you describe it to me?
Oh my god, it's so beautiful. Like I think that would be such a cool shoe, but it needs a lot of like development. It was extremely like retro-futuristic. It was inspired by the industrial design work of Luigi Colani. I'll show you some of his work. It's insane. Like it's really crazy, and it's extremely futuristic. It's like, what was that show? Like it was kind of like the Flintstones, the show, but it was like futuristic.
I have your
Okay. It was like a funny like cartoon show, but it was like his work, Luigi Colani. His work is extremely futuristic work. So heavily inspired by that. So of course the shoe was very futuristic as well, and it had a heel, of course, which was kind of round, you know, and the back part would go up till here, and then there was like this is the way that the shoe would kind of start, and it had a very narrow, very pointy kind of toe box, right? And it had many different panels. So the panels were mostly like fabric. They were red. There was a red fabric, and there was a salmon colored fabric as well, and it worked so well together. And then it was without shoelaces. It was like straps, and the straps are salmon colored as well, and the fabric is very beautiful. I'll show it to you. Like super cool actually.
I need to see it.
No, it's crazy. It's really crazy because the heel, also from the back, it's like rounded off, and that was the main point, like to add dimension like this, because all the shoes they're kind of flat, in the back. I wanted it to be really round, and I wanted that to be like the focal point, and then you see the rest of the shoe basically. So it's really cool. I want to make that shoe. When I have the capability of like doing a shoe for absent findings, I think I will be referring to that in some way, but I won't be, of course, recreating that because that is a crazy shoe and it's like a student shoe,
Yeah.
But I will have some DNA from that for sure. Yeah.
So how did that get into the first bag you ever made?
So the first bag that I ever made was part of a collection called Prometheus. It was inspired by the movie Prometheus by Ridley Scott and the Promethean god, basically, right? So So Prometheus basically gave light to humanity, right? So that's kind of the story of Prometheus. And Prometheus from the movie is about humanity like on a voyage to find their creator. And when they get close to their creator, they realize it's not all that they'd hoped for, in a way, right? So that's kind of the story of Prometheus. And the core sentiment of this collection was about ideas because, light helps you create, right? And then in Prometheus, it was humanity like going to meet the creator. And that takes a lot of ideation and thought. It takes a lot of technology and all of that. So the core sentiment of this collection was how all of us have ideas, and they all start off as rough sketches. They look like almost a child wrote it down or something. Because you're like, when you have an idea, you're like, you need to capture it. You don't care about your handwriting or something.
Yes.
You just have to capture it. So it feels like it's a child's writing. When things written down, when you're even communicating that idea to your loved ones or something, you're so protective about it. You don't want to hear anything negative about the idea because it's still so small and it's still in your head. It's not fully formed. You haven't fully thought it out. So any sort of like reaction you feel like is criticism. So you really are protective about it like a child. And then as you put more into it, you think about it more, it develops into something really strong. Something that can become a rocket, that can bring you to your creator in a way, right? Wow. So that was the idea, and the way that I kind of was able to realize that into a bag was very simple, to be honest. Like, there's this artist called Robert Ryman, whose work I was very obsessed with, because it was literally like, his paintings were like a kid's handwriting, right? It was very like, it's very sight only like, but it had a different feel completely, but it was still very childlike. So that became the childish handwriting for me. I used one of his artworks as a print on canvas, like raw canvas, and that was both the lining but also a part that could be seen in the exterior of the handbag. And the handbag itself was made with like cowhide leather, regular leather, and it was heavily padded so that it became really rigid and it would be like an exoskeleton almost, so it became like the fully formed idea. And the inside with the beautiful like childlike handwriting, the print that came from Robert Ryman on this like very fluid fabric like canvas, very natural, was the initial birth of that idea. So it's like directly talking about the birth and also like the rigidity of like a fully formed idea.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So that was actually the birth of the first time you actually created
a handbag. Yeah.
And then going back to your first memory attached to fashion, which was the bag, and your most iconic piece today, which
kind of like bags. Yeah.
Yes.
No, that's true.
And then you had another opportunity to work on a bag as well in the university, which was when they selected 10 kids.
Oh, wait, sorry. So this is the one that was the selection. So this was for Loyal. So the one that you're talking about is for Loyal, and this is the bag that I did for Loyal. For that thing, for which, so for this handbag, the Prometheus handbag, we had a lot of support from our teachers, and we got all the fabrics and materials for free because there was a selection process for this, because it was in collaboration with Leather and Luxury Magazine and Loyal Industries.
And how did you get to be picked as one of those 10 kids?
I made a strong collection. Like, I made a very strong collection for me as well. Like, I'm very proud of that collection. Basically, the opportunity was for 10 kids from both undergraduate, my course, and then also the master's course. And in total, I think there was almost like 30 to 40 kids combining both of our classes. And from that, 10 were selected. So it wasn't like such a hardcore selection process, but I was selected because of my collection. And then we worked on this, on one handbag basically. So from beginning to the end, and we were given all the leather for free, all the zippers, and like even for example the zip puller, like I had customized with like this tattoo that I have, which is called the Feather of Moth, which I thought for the longest time would be like my signature as well if I do a brand. So this was on the zip puller.
For people that are listening and not watching, the tattoo is basically a circle with a feather in the middle.
Yeah, and it's called the Feather of Moth, and it's like the symbol from Robert Plant of Led Zeppelin. I love Led Zeppelin and I love Robert Plant, and it's so cool. So that's the symbol basically. So yeah, I mean that was for Loyal. And the other bag that I made was, I don't remember what it's called, the collection, but it was like an orange bag. It was a massive bag. And I was very inspired by like modular art, basically.
What is modular art?
Things that you can move, basically, and you can really like modular art. Basically, like your perspective shapes the art in a way. So if you're like seeing a cube, for example, if you're seeing it from this angle, then you see it as something different in a way, and then you see it from a different height, then your perspective shifts, right? So that's kind of modular art, and I was really into like modularity as a concept as well, where things evolve with what you need them to be in a way, right? So that's what I created. Like I created a handbag which is comically large, like really it was massive. But the idea was that like it was like a travel bag in my head, and the idea was like when you are going for a weekend away or something, you take the entire bag, you pack it up, you stuff it up, and then when you get to the place, you can just unzip the bottom half, becomes your storage for your shoes or something, and then the top half becomes your day bag, right? So you can take it around, you have enough space to like keep things that you need essentially. And then when you come back, you go for like a nice dinner or something, there are like attachments to the handbag that in my head were like things that you can really customize and play around them. And for this bag, I think I had like 4 or 5 attachments, and all of the attachments are like different shapes and way smaller. So I saw them as like evening bags basically. So you just take one piece out, you attach the same strap that can be attached to the main bag, and you just attach that, and then that bag becomes your evening bag. You know what I mean? So it's like one bag that evolves with the situation that you will be using it for basically.
In the first situation, then that's like the first moment where you paid attention to the handle of the bag specifically.
That was like a moment where I wanted the main handle of the main kind of shoulder strap to be usable in all different cases, yeah.
Were you thinking of that consciously at the time, or was it something that
It was something that
just came?
just came to me, and it was something that was just kind of obvious, you know? I was like, I don't want to add things, but I want the things that constitute the main bag to be reusable for different elements of the bag, which were also like separate bags, you know? So I was like, it just makes sense to have the same strap be also attachable to the smaller handbags for evening out, you know? And for the day bags also, yeah.
We're talking about Florence and your journey there and the first bag that you created. And then there came a point where you got your diploma handed to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you walked on stage and someone handed you your diploma. You graduated from a fashion university. What did that feel like?
So it felt really good, to be honest. It was really amazing. I'd finished my like final graduate collection, which is 3 looks. And it was once again, you know, something extremely futuristic. I think I was really into like, I feel like it's still in absent findings as well, like some sort of futurism. You know, oftentimes like some people will tell me that some of the looks be like costume design from, for example, Dune or Star Wars or something, you know, which is really interesting. But I think I always had that in like my design language ever since I like kind of started designing. But yeah, I mean, getting, you know, the diploma from Polymoda and having like graduated from a university, you know, after having dropped out from University of Illinois, it was like really special. My parents came to Florence to be, you know, part of the function and everything, and it was really awesome, to be honest. And it was also like kind of at the same time in a way conflicting because of my like personal relationships with some of my like 2 of my very good friends. Because I mean, maybe it's too much information, but like during that time I went through a breakup, and I was like kind of going through my emotions and stuff, you know, that last year of uni. And I like became really good friends, and then we had like a thing with this one girl who like my friends didn't really like that much. So my friends in a way somehow felt like I was choosing her over them, but I didn't intend to do that at all.
You were just going through a break.
I was just like kind of going through it, and I was finding comfort. And you know, this friend who even before like I really got to know her, I was like, I don't understand what goes on in her mind. But then once I really got to know her, I was like, she was so cool and so like interesting and like very inspiring as well. But yeah, so like it was strange that way with 2 of my like really close friends. But other than that, it was really, it was really beautiful. I wasn't able to make the final runway show because once again, I was late with my collection, and it became a trend throughout Polymoda somehow. But you know, at the same time, like all of my teachers really loved me throughout, and the way that the director of Polymoda is like one of my most important mentors, because of whom I'll be, you know, being part of Dubai Fashion Week and how to like an actual runway show on the 3rd of February. So it's like, I feel like in Polymoda, it became a thing where, in fashion school, everything does, go on to the very last minute. Like literally before the day of the midterms and the finals, we'd be like struggling in the university in front of the sewing machine, right? Really going through it until like 10 p.m. And then the security will come and tell us like, hey guys, like you really have to wrap up. You have 5 minutes, and like you have 5 minutes and your bags are like, you're a complete mess. You have stuff everywhere on the table. You're working on a sewing machine. You have half your stuff next to the sewing machine. Your needle is breaking because you're like this heavy in your garment, and your needle can't really pierce anymore. You have this much padding on shit, and it's like it gets really tough, So like everything really does come down to the last minute. Even with like the collection now, you saw the state the studio was in when you came to visit. Even for that, like everything came to the last minute, really. And I think it's just a part of the entire process. So yeah, I was too late to like produce the entire collection. It was ready the day before the runway show, our graduate runway show. And Master and Liana really loved the collection, but it was just the fact that they had a stylist, a very renowned stylist in Europe, come to the school the 2 days before, and he basically helped direct the entire show. So he decided how, in a way, like whose collection will be opening, whose collection will be in the middle, whose collection should come after this collection. And he was also very, in a way, involved in the individual styling of the pieces that will be in the collection, yeah? So I completely missed that deadline. But I did manage to produce my collection like the day before the fashion show. And I was asked to come for the last fitting. But then by then, like the stylist that was there, he already like had it all planned to his head basically. So it's like, I was really upset for that. But then it was like, it was fine, In the end, it was okay.
You also had to move back to Dubai after Florence, right?
After graduating, I came back to Dubai, yeah.
What did that feel like? Because you already had a conflicting relationship with Dubai. You had gone to Florence and gotten to experience the openness and the creativity and the authenticity of Florence and of the fashion world. And then you had to just come back to Dubai after that.
Yeah. No, I thought I would hate it, but honestly, like it was so refreshing to come back. It was really, it was really a breath of fresh air. And I was like, for the first time in a very long time, I wasn't scared. I wasn't really like questioning what's going to happen next in my life. I felt like, okay, I'm on this path now. I graduated from a really good university. I was very like happy with the way that my portfolio looked after graduating. So I was like quite confident that, I will land on my feet and I'll do something good. It was just like a matter of time. And it's like all my friends as well, no one had like a internship ready just after graduating. So everyone was kind of like, we were all on the same boat.
Tell me about that. But you mean no one has an internship ready? Because, graduate from uni, like I studied humanities. I graduate from uni, the uni gives us no guidance on what to do next.
Yeah.
Like we're just out in the world to figure out how to get a job.
Yeah.
What do you know? You're talking about internship.
So I'll tell you how it goes, how it went for us in Bollingwood. Maybe they changed, but it was like this. We had business link days basically in the final year while we were like producing our final collection and everything and working on our final portfolios. We had business link days where we would showcase our work in progress portfolio to brands, and each of us would get a few brands assigned to us. So for example, I had Bottega Veneta assigned to me. I had Ferragamo assigned to me. I had also Zegna assigned to me. And I had a couple of other brands as well. So not Gucci, like no one bought Gucci, for example.
Well, how would they assign those brands?
They would assign those brands. So our professors who made the decision basically. So Polymoda has a pretty good network when it comes to like relationships with these big brands. And they know which are the brands that are interested in kind of interviewing the graduating class basically. They also know that not every human resource kind of manager would have the time to like sift through all the people in the class, So they would take the liberty of kind of assigning brands to the different students based on their personality, based on their aesthetic, based on what they liked and all of that. So that was kind of the decision-making process. So yeah, and we would have these interviews. They were quite exciting because you're like, for the first time, talking to someone that works for a brand that you probably maybe really love. In my case, it was really like Bottega Veneta was something that I really loved. It was Daniel Lee was the creative director at the time, and like Bottega was was the hottest brand, in a way, from the Kering Group brands. So I was really excited for it, but then it was also kind of disheartening because like all of the interviews for most of my classmates ended in a way that like, okay, we really like your work and we think you could really be a good fit, but we're not really looking for designers at the moment. So it was like, okay, then why did you like interview me? And then it would just be like, yeah, we have your portfolio and we'll like keep in touch, for anything that comes up.
It's like they only did that because they had to as part of the university rather than actually give
It keeps that relationship on all of that. And
in case you blew up and then they can
somehow
and employ you.
I have no idea, but it was like they were also like building their stack of portfolios and like seeing, I don't know. I think it was just like building profiles basically for prospective like chances of employment or something. So that was like through Polymoda. But then most of us, none of us got our first internships through that actually.
How did you get yours?
So I got mine by just being really active on LinkedIn. And I got mine, I think after almost 3 months of having graduated. Like 3 months after I had probably like my first interview with Gucci. And it was for a very interesting role. It wasn't a design role. It was in collection merchandising in the handbags department. And collection merchandising basically, I don't know what it meant. But what it is it's a very interesting role in that you're in the middle of designers and the business teams, right? So collection merchandising basically means that, for example, in the case of Gucci, for example, if the Blondie handbag, which is like a family of handbags, if it did really well last season, then you have to communicate to the design team that, okay, the Gucci Blondie did really beautifully. Did really well for us last year. Let's do some more iterations of it. Let's see how we can expand that family of handbags, Then, for example, always looking at what the competitors of Gucci are doing. Like, for example, what is Louis Vuitton doing in the top handles category? What is Balenciaga doing for, the tote bags? And where can we, what is something new that we can introduce? In my time, when I was there, like, East-West handbags were, like, the craze in a way, like long handbags. East-West styles, and I was very confused, like why they call East-West, and like because they're East-West, they're long.
They're long.
Exactly. So just like that was kind of the role, and going in, I wasn't like okay. I was kind of disheartened that I'm not going to be designing, but at the same time, I was very like motivated because it's Gucci, and I was like okay, it's going to look good on my resume, And at the same time, it was somehow creative as well. But through this internship, I really learned a lot. Specifically, that there was a massive gap when it came to kind of top handle handbags, which became like the main kind of inspiration for me to create the gallery bag. And yeah, I learned about how like a handbag or fashion doesn't just have to be like pushing the silhouette, pushing the boundary for the sake of doing it. It's not. Like fashion is not art for art's sake. It has a commercial value to it as well, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. In Polymoda, we were very much like, pushed to be creative, pushed to be like extremely sculptural, pushed to be just pushing basically, without any regard to the commerciality aspect, which is amazing because as a student you should be doing that, as a designer. But in Gucci, when I entered Gucci, I was like, I don't like the brand that much. I don't connect to it. It's so, it's like, it's the biggest brand, And it's like, I didn't care for it, to be honest. I wanted to be at like a young, cool brand, like a cool designer that I loved.
And even the story of Gucci, I don't know if you know it, but I kind of looked into it and it started off in such a pure way. It's just this old man in Italy and he didn't have enough money. He basically works in a hotel.
In London, yeah?
Yes, where he would take people's bags in the hotel and put them in the truck. So it's crazy because it started off with bags of the story. And then realized that he knows so much about wealthy people's bags because he would put them on. Why don't I start making these bags?
Yeah.
So he started doing that, and then when he got his kids involved, it slowly turned into exposure and exclusiveness. And the guy who started it originally, the main designer, he didn't want to grow the brand. Like, he wanted it to be just like the simplicity of it, and each handbag had like such specific meaning behind it. But the future generations took it to a point where it became so struck on exclusivity. At the same time, I remember when you were talking to me about working in Gucci, you were telling me about how you noticed that there is a beauty in that commercialization, and you compared to me the different types of bags they had and the different types of audience that they were meant to attract. And you tell me more about
No, it became really like, in a way, like a science, you know, where you, as a layman, you like go into Gucci and you see like the different handbags and you feel like, okay, that one's interesting, but from the other side, it became so clear how Gucci viewed its different clientele, because Gucci in a way is for literally everyone. You know, that's how they view themselves. They view themselves as a brand that, you know, a teenager who's kind of rich can go and buy something and come out. So the segmentation was very obvious. Like the Gucci Blondie was for young girls, you know, like 18 to 21, 18 to 22, like college age girls, you know. And then the Gucci Diana, like the tote bag, would be something that, you know, kind of everyone can use. And it's very like, it's understated in a way, but at the same time, it has like a beautiful bamboo handle that is coming from the bamboo 1947 handbag, which is way more elegant, way more, in a way, refined. And it's for like someone who's, you know, in a way more mature, you know. And then there's the beautiful Jackie handbag, which is kind of like my favorite handbag from Gucci, because it's so classic and it's so, in a way, simple. But that handbag really talking about like, for something to be beautiful, it's very important for it to be also simple, you know? So yeah, like the Jackie has its own kind of customer, you know, like for example, when I was working at Gucci, I used to get like of course, like an employee discount. So I bought my mom a Gucci Jackie for one of her birthdays, and it was like such a beautiful handbag. She really loves that handbag, you know? So it's for someone who's a little bit more mature, who really like has a certain taste, you know. It's kind of classic, but also it's an icon, you know. So
what's the story behind the handbag?
So the Gucci Jackie is a design that Jackie Kennedy basically wore, and that's kind of how it got its name, you know. Oftentimes, like a lot of brands will kind of name their bags based on the important personality that kind of carried it. What I learned very recently was Alexa Chung, like my like teenage like celebrity crush. She has a handbag by Mulberry named after her, which is called the Alexa bag, which is really interesting. So yeah, I mean, for example, like the Hermes, like the Birkin, of course, it's named after Jane Birkin. So it's very interesting how these bags kind of get their names as well. But yeah, that's like the story of Jackie, like the Jackie bag. Yeah.
And then you were working there for 6 months as an intern.
Yeah.
And then what happened?
And then I got a renewed contract. So that became my extracurricular internship as well. So I was like happy to take it. And I did 6 more months after that in the same position. And after that, once my contract ended, was when I was like, okay, I think I've learned as much as I want to learn from this, you know? Now I really want to get back into designing. And even during my time at Gucci, I designed like a special collection. It wasn't just, it was just a graphic collection. So it was just sketches and, you know, like kind of 3D renders of the handbags that I proposed. I wasn't able to kind of create a prototype of it or something because I didn't have access to a studio, and also didn't have time, of course, to like work on that.
And no one asked you to do this.
No one asked
to do it.
No one asked me to do this, but I was like, okay, fuck, like let's try, let's do it, you know. So I made like I like that capsule collection that I made for them. It was inspired by like the Viennese Secession, in particular by Gustav Klimt, and it was also very much inspired by like the different families of the Gucci handbag. So there was like my version of like a Gucci Blondie, my version of a Dionysus, my version of a Jackie, you know, all within this like capsule collection. And I showed it to, of course, I showed it to my parents. I showed it to Laura. And like at one point, I had a apartment in Florence, which was like a studio apartment. It's like the worst apartment that I lived in. It was so tiny. I was like, oh my god. It was the only good thing about it was the location. Other than that, it was just really bad. But this was like the moment in Florence where you couldn't find an apartment for on like a budget, you know. So this was like one place that I found. I was like, okay, let's take it. So at this moment when I was designing, like all my walls, I didn't have so many walls. They were all covered with like my sketches of the handbags. So I really got into it, and I showed it to my immediate like reporting manager, Kiara, and she really liked it. And she liked it so much that, you know, she sent it to the talent acquisition team of Gucci, and then I was able to get in touch with the talent acquisition team. And I always had it in my mind that, okay, like once I'm in the brand, then it'll be relatively easier for me to transition into a design role.
Yes.
You know, so I had really cool conversations and like nice interviews with the talent acquisition team. But this was around 2023, like the beginning of 2023. And this is when Alessandro Michele had left the brand and Sabel Lissano hadn't joined the brand yet. So it was just the design team that was designing for like 2 collections basically. And it was a complete like mess. Like I heard stories about like kids designers designing like women's wear shows, and it was like completely a mess. So the talent acquisition team told me that, look, Shiven, we like your work, but we don't know who the next creative director is going to be. And in a brand like Gucci, even if it's so massive, the design teams are quite small, you know? So for example, even in Loewe, like the shoe designers team, it's not going to be more than like 7 people, you know? So it is very selective and it is very small. So she told me that since we don't have a creative director, I don't know what role to offer you, because you've shown interest in the handbag side of things and you've also shown interest in the menswear side of things, right? They can't just go to like the menswear design director and be like, do you need more designers? Because of course you'll say yes, right? But the creative director is the one who decides like how many designers are required in which space based on his vision for the brand. So this was like one of the things. Probably there was something else as well that kind of prevented me from like joining the design department. And this is all after like the next 6 months basically. And then I was just like, okay, like if it's not working out for me, because also I was like interviewing for example, Ferragamo, of which my mentor and the head of Polymoda was the creative director of for like 10 years basically. He wrote like a personalized recommendation letter for me and sent it to the human resources manager over there. Had really good conversations with her, and like it felt at a moment like, okay, like I'll get this role, you know, as a handbags designer at Ferragamo, which like I would have loved. But then it didn't work out because like Italy also has this thing with the permesso di soggiorno, which it's like a permit of stay for international students, and it's really like complex. And since I would be applying for like I would be getting like a very junior design role, I think most of the brands didn't care for it, like didn't care for like investing into that and stuff. So in a way it felt really like, okay, my time in this kind of organization's come to an end, where I felt like I'm really pushing for it, but it's not working out and it's something that I can't control. So I was like, okay, what should I do, you know? So it was once again like, there's been hurdles after hurdles after hurdles after hurdles, right? So it's just like one more kind of thing, which is like, shit, like I can't control this, right? So
It's so disheartening because I know exactly the feeling. You know, a lot of students, for example, in the UK, they graduate and they have 2 years, a 2-year graduate visa to find a job.
yeah,
And after then, even if you started working in a company from the first year that you're there, it's so hard for a job to want to sponsor you.
yeah.
And it can be so disheartening for that to be the reason why you're not getting a job.
No, totally. Because I was then like comparing myself with like other people. And of course, you like, if you're objective enough as a person, you know what your capabilities are. And you can kind of, I mean, you don't compare yourself, but then you do compare yourself. And you're like, but I feel like I'm more talented than this person, but this person already has this job. What is the thing that is the difference, you know? And oftentimes it was something very basic that you can't really control. So I was like, okay, like,
Yeah.
screw this, let's, you know, start something else.
Even when you were working in Gucci's office, where were most people from?
I mean, they were mostly Italians. Like,
And you were the only person from India there.
no, literally, yeah. I was like the only person of color because we would have like lunch breaks all together, you know, and it was like a amazing spread of lunch. Like really, like the lunch was so good. But like literally, you see the entire office over there, right? And there was one other person of color, and she was also like Italian, you know. Yeah, it was just so in that way, you know, like Italy compared to the rest of the fashion capitals is still in a way lagging because they never had that moment where, you know, like in the US they had like people of color have to be included in things, you know, they have to be part of the conversations and all of that. In Paris as well, it's a big thing, you know, like the Louis Vuitton offices are not like this. There's a lot of color, there's a lot of diversity over there. Of course, because Virgil Abloh was also the creative director, so he made it a point to make that change. But unfortunately, in Italy, it's still not so common. And yeah, that thing never reached there. So, for example, now, like one of my mentors, her name is Michelle, and she has this organization called Afro Fashion Association. Yes. And the name is a little bit misleading because you think it's only for Africans, but it's for BIPOC creatives, like people of color in the fashion industry and the creative industry. And she basically is, you know, very closely associated to, for example, Vogue Italia and like all these institutions that can really make a difference in Italy. And she's, you know, trying her level best, and she's so like amazing and so just like an angel really. And she's really supporting and pushing for inclusivity because really, like if you go to Milan and you go to like design teams, it's very white. It's it's very interesting.
You know, especially when you ended up designing your collections, a part of what you designed them based off of are your mom's stories, which is so tied to your culture.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of cultures around the world, like even Nayo, who is the sound engineer sitting behind us right now, she has a fashion brand, and part of her collection are these really baggy trousers, who that represents traditional clothing from Lebanon, but a modernized version of them. And there's just so many different beautiful things that are embedded within our cultures and even our, I feel like I tend to find that we are a lot more of a community-based places. So it's hard to see that there's that exclusion of us.
Yeah, no, that's very sad because also like bigger brands like Gucci, they view our demographic like really as a demographic where they can really make a lot of revenue. You know what I mean? So we just become like in a way like a statistic. And even like all these big brands, they do like Ramadan campaigns, and the designs have nothing to do with like the culture. You know what I mean? So it's like, what the hell?
Like, okay, we're checking a box.
Exactly. You know, just for like sales. So
yeah.
I mean, the latest example was of course like the Prada, like Kolhapuri, like the slippers, right? That entire scandal. It's like, okay, like all of us are inspired by multiple different things. I'm inspired by like Austrian artists, but I'm not stealing from it. I'm referencing it and I'm being very vocal about it. I'm very honest about, you know, where I'm getting these ideas from and how I'm using them to kind of build a story around my brand. When bigger brands do it, they tend to not acknowledge that at all. That's where the issue is. I don't care about getting inspiration from different places as long as you're being verbal about it and like acknowledging the people that you're getting it from, you know? Because I think that is the issue. Like as soon as you don't show that representation, then you're stealing.
And you're erasing.
And you're erasing and you're stealing. And that's the issue, you know? So, yeah.
No, I love that point that you just made, especially because I feel like the topic of cultural appropriation is such a big one nowadays, especially within our generation. Yeah. And to explain it in a way that's like, it's not that we don't want you to represent our cultures, it's that it's the way you're doing it by hiding our cultures and making them seem like they're your own ideas.
And you're flattening it. You're making it flat. You know, that's the problem because, I mean, all of our cultures have so much to give, so much inspiration, so like they're so deep, all of them.
Speaking about that, I want you to tell us, like, just so that they understand, what attracted you to the story? What made you add to your fashion?
It's a dress that I've been seeing ever since I was a toddler, literally. My mom is Bengali and, you know, she loves her culture and she's like one of her happiest times of the year is Durga Puja, right? And Durga Puja is like the traditional festival of Bengalis where, they dress to their nines. They wear the most beautiful saris that they've collected throughout the years, and they really enjoy it. So I've grown up seeing the sari. When I was younger, I didn't really like seeing my mom in a sari because I felt like it was too traditional, you know. And then as I grew older, I was like, wow, but it's really beautiful. And now I really love it because now I see the nuances of like draping a sari. It's so complex, but at the same time, it's so simple.
Tell me about that. What is it about the draping of a sari that makes it so complex?
It's so complex because it's literally like a 4.5 to 6 meter piece of fabric, right? It's a rectangular piece of fabric that then you have to drape in a way that it becomes so elegant and it has its own movement. What really I'm drawn to in the drape of a sari is how beautifully it moves. Oftentimes, like my mom would like, when she's pleating it over here, it's called the pallu. She will like oftentimes kind of pin it up as well because she wants it to be like very mathematical over here and like equal pleats and all that. And then by the time it goes down to the torso, it starts to open up and it has its own movement. And by the time it reaches the floor, it's like fully, dynamic basically. So that is something that's very interesting to me. And also the fact that it's literally just one piece of fabric that you're draping to create something so elegant is genius for me, and it feels like the most pure form of dressing. So that is something that I love, and that is something that I like try to emulate and try to like experiment on in my own pieces in a way that is not like so nostalgic for that way of dressing, but in a way that's kind of like innovating on that dressing basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
So going back to talking about that and your inspiration for saris, I want to go back to the beginning. You were working in Gucci and you saw that, first of all, you needed a work visa to be able to stay there. The creative direction in the design section was a mess.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even sound like you feel like the inclusion aspect of things was truly there when you were working there. So then what was the next step for you? How did you jump into the next step?
Yeah, for me, the next step was like, there was a lot of frustration, and I had now, by this moment in my life, I think I was like 25. Yeah. I think I'd learned that like when I'm trying to force something, it doesn't really work out. And it's not something so enjoyable for me. So I was like, okay, let's not force it. And already I had this idea, the story of Ups and Findings kind of bubbling in my mind. And I'd shared it like a couple of times when I was drunk with Laura. And she was like, okay, it's really interesting actually, because the core idea is something that in a way all of us can relate to, right? And that is what makes a strong brand / strong story relate. How many people can relate to it? And is it something that they really relate in a very deep way, or is it something surface level? And for me, I feel like Apps and Findings, because it's a uniform for creatives, all of us have gone through this journey of like, being very vulnerable and like deciding on choosing a path that is very difficult and very different. There's no objectiveness to this. Like you can be really talented, but if you don't know how to talk to people, you're not going to be able to make it, You could be really not talented, but you're like amazing at talking to people and amazing at, making people believe in your work, then you make it, So it's there's no gauge to it. Like it in a way feels random, but still people pursue it. People like us pursue it because we believe in ourselves enough, So I was like, this is a story already. This is something that I can really stand for, This is something that is like at the core of my heart, that moment in a creative's life. And I want to capture that basically, even with the name itself. So I spoke to Lara about it. I spoke to some of my very close friends about it as well. And they're like, Shiven, you should do it. And then I spoke to my parents about it as well. And they're like, yeah, why not? Let's do it,
And by then you were back in Dubai.
No, around this time I was in Florence.
You're still in Florence.
After Gucci, I was still in Florence for a good amount of time, like almost a year and a half. Because by this time, also like in the more bureaucratic sense of things, I had realized that like none of these companies are hiring me because they would have to sponsor me, sponsor my visa.
Yes.
So I found a workaround for that even, and I kept pushing really. I didn't give up at all. There were so many moments where I could have just been like, okay, I give up. Like, but then what is the other option after giving up? You know? So I was in a way like forced to keep pushing. So I'd found a way to like get a freelance work visa, which made me legally be able to stay in Florence, right? So I was staying in Florence and I started floating this idea to my friends. And I was also like, I hadn't mapped out in a way. I knew that the designing and everything, I'll kill it with that. Like I knew that. I knew that the identity of the brand, the first collection design wise, I'll take care of everything.
Why couldn't you start mapping that out? What was that process?
Just a lot of like sleepless nights, really. I mean, like at that moment, my like day-to-day schedule as well was like slightly insane. I was going to bed at around 6 or 7 a.m. in the morning, sleeping sleeping until like 1:30, and then getting into the rhythm of the day at around 4 p.m. and then designing for the rest of the time until the next morning, like 7 or 6 a.m. So it was like a complete switch. And to be honest, like it was one of my favorite moments in my life when I was like working on this, because so I knew that I had to design the collection and it had to be perfect. I knew that I had the support of a third eye from Massimiliano, my mentor, who was very like closely not working, but like closely editing the collection as I was making it. And for developing the collection, I reached out to a senior of mine from Polymoda who studied fashion technology, which is a course where you learn the craftsmanship side of kind of making clothes basically. So you're never designing, but you're looking at your favorite designers' works and you're selecting looks that you want to recreate so that you learn how to exactly make something in a very beautiful way, where craft is the most important thing. So you're just learning how to sew and you're learning how to make perfect patterns. So I worked with him to develop the first collection basically.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And you have to like do all the sewing and everything.
With the pattern making side of things, refining everything, dot to exactly how I wanted it. So one of the things that I really learned throughout this process is also how to make people believe in my vision, basically. Because I don't have anything else to offer. I mean, I just have like a strong idea. Oftentimes, maybe it's not even the strongest, but it's like how much conviction can I show to the other person to make them believe in it, and that is something that is actually really important. That is so important. I mean, yeah, even if you think your idea is like shaky, you have to portray it in a way that it's really strong, because I think everyone's ideas are shaky, but I think some people are able to just like make the other person feel like they fully believe in it, or then you go the other way and you feel like you're shaking in your idea and the other person can smell it on you, and it's like, then it's not going to lead you anywhere.
What did you have to do to be able to explain your idea in such good words? Where did you have to look? Was it outside? Was it within you?
I think it was just honesty, to be honest. It was just like really being like not blunt, but finding a way to say the exact thing that you have in your mind, and which I told you, like I have an issue with it even now. But the ideas that I really want to communicate are oftentimes simpler ideas. The complex ideas that are like very like not good, not bad, in the gray space, that is the idea that it's hard to kind of explain. But oftentimes like the strong ideas, the ones that you're explaining to people that are not so close to you, but like friends, those are really easy. You just have to be honest and you just have to kind of say it in the best way you can. Because it's not like, it's not going to challenge someone's belief. You know what I mean? The ideas that are hard to communicate for me are the ones that might challenge someone else's belief. You know what I mean? Because then, yeah, that's like an entirely different thing.
What specifically inspired the first collection?
So the first collection, of course, we already spoke about this, like the drape of the sari was extremely kind of like the focal point of like all the draping that you see in the first collection. And then also the architecture of Le Corbusier in Chandigarh became like a central focal point for me for the first collection, and it came about in a very natural way where I was kind of shifting through and like seeing like my parents' old albums from when they were in university. And my parents met in Chandigarh. And one of the buildings that I saw behind them in the background was the Palace of Assembly, which is like a insane looking building, and it's very like modernist. It's quite brutal as well because it's all concrete. And that became like something that really drew me in because I'd never seen architecture like that in India. And I have still like not personally seen it, but I saw it in the picture and I got really drawn to it. And I saw like I did a lot of research about Le Corbusier and I got really into his work, and that's how like that became an inspiration as well. And then what else was the color palette was very inspired by kind of my childhood in Dubai because it's a very colorful collection, but it's not extremely loud, if that makes sense. It feels very muted in the colors. And it's like the colors that we saw growing up in Dubai because everything, in a way, sometimes feel like it has a layer of dust or sand on top. So it really mutes the colors down, you know? So I really wanted to capture that element of it. So that is where the inspiration for the colors was coming from. And the silhouettes, I love, as I said, like Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd in that era as well. So the silhouettes for the trousers, specifically like the flare, was kind of coming from there, you know?
And then you released the first collection.
Mm-hmm.
Where was that? When was that?
Oh, that was bread. Like, that was amazing. Yeah, so we worked on the first collection for 1.5 years. And then we released it in March at Bread Abu Dhabi. And it was like really the first time that, you know, Lara, me, also my parents to a certain extent were able to showcase like what we'd been working on, especially like Lara and me. We dedicated like 1.5 years to this collection. And it was the first time that we were showing it to people that didn't know us. So it was really nerve-wracking, but it was really a positive experience, to be honest. Yeah. So Bread Abu Dhabi in 2025.
How did that
March.
change your relationship with Dubai?
Oh my God, like, I feel like Absent Findings has been amazing, not only for the clothes or not only for the story of Absent Findings in the way that, but it's like introduced me to so many cool people like yourselves, really. Without Absent Findings, I don't know if I would have met you guys, you know? So it's really helped me change the way that I looked at Dubai. I feel like Dubai is now it's burgeoning with creativity and it's so hungry for like new voices and so hungry for like authentic expression, you know? And it's only because of Absent Findings that I've been able to be like a very tiny part of that community. So, I mean, it completely like 180 shifted my perspective of Dubai. Already, like I'd reached like a really nice place with my relationship to Dubai where I felt like it was really chill. When I came back to Dubai, when I was like applying for university and stuff, that's not university, the internship part. Then I felt like, okay, it's super chill. I have like, you know, a few really cool friends and that's all I need. And I'm like chill, you know. But during Bread and with Absent Findings, it's fully changed. I think it's the best place. I think it's like so many open-minded people, so many people who want to experiment, experience, and, you know, show themselves.
And then you became friends with Dario, who's a patent maker. Did he help you with your second collection?
No, Dario was the person I was referring to in the first collection.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. He helped me with the first collection.
Okay, and back then you didn't have confidence making high quality garments, you told me, is that correct?
I have confidence in being able to make garments, but not the quality that Absent Findings is known for. I was confident in being able to make like a jacket from scratch with like a lining and everything, but not to the quality of Absent Findings.
And do you enjoy the sewing process?
To be honest, I think it's not my strong suit. I feel like my strong suit is really the designing side of things. I can do it, but it's not something that's the most enjoyable part for me. And what I also realized is like I should just focus on the part that comes naturally to me. I would try to develop that skill so that I can be the best at it. And then thankfully enough, you know, I have a person that I work with is amazing at what he does. So there's a beautiful kind of back and forth out there. And that way we're able to make the best pieces.
Of course. Did you choose to make your team so small on purpose, or was this?
It's money, like we can't afford to do something else. Yeah. It's like, yeah. I mean, but for me, to be honest, like I wouldn't want to expand the team too rapidly or too much. Like I don't need to have another designer. I think I have enough ideas to last me the rest of my life. And I think like with my pattern maker as well, now we share this like unspoken bond where he like understands when I say something. And if he doesn't understand it, then I have the skill and the ability to like show it to him, and then he can refine it. You know what I mean? So it's perfect. Like it's the perfect balance.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
When did you move into the second collection?
So the second collection we unveiled last year in September. Like that's when we did the photo shoot and everything. And I'd already started working on it January, February, March, April, May, June. I think in June I started like, I mean, by May, I think I had all the sketches done. June, we started making the prototypes. And then July, we started constructing the garments in real fabric.
What inspired that collection, and how did you start making it? That's a long time to be thinking about.
Yeah, so I was obsessed with this one album. It's called The Party, and it's by Andy Schauf. It's unlike any other music that I really like. It's very poppy in a way, but it's very like, it has a very different cadence, which I really like. It has a very slow cadence, and I like the theme of that album because the album kind of delves into like a party scenario where you're supposed to be with your loved ones, and you're supposed to be having a nice time.
It's like the interpersonal dynamics within society.
Exactly, but condensed into like not even society, just your loved ones, and how it is even with your like closest friends. Like the party delves into like how when you say something at a party, and like some people might choose to ignore it even if they heard it, but they just feel like it's not the right moment to have heard it. And there's always like weird dynamics between people. Like there might be like a crush, or there might be a situation where someone feels inferior to another person or something, and then how do they like compensate for that feeling? I really enjoy these kind of ideas and these kind of thoughts, because I feel like, as we said, I'm quite perceptive, and I feel like I'm always perceiving. So yeah, it became really like the theme of the collection in a way. So even the way that I approached the looks was in a way looking at different characters, different archetypes that you might see at a party, like the person who's like the life of the party, the person who's there but no one knows why he's actually there or something. The person who's kind of like the storyteller, who's just like, oh dude, you won't believe what happened like yesterday to me. And everyone is so engaged by it. The person who's kind of like the light of the party, where like just the most bright person who'll listen to all your secrets, and you can trust that person so much that they won't say anything to anyone, and they'll be like extremely objective and tell you how to proceed with this issue or whatever. So just like looking at different archetypes in a way in a party scenario, and that became the guiding force of it. And the rest of the inspirations were still very much linked to the first collection, because I feel like I had so many rich inspirations, so many rich things that I could really get more out of. But the second collection, I added one new element, which was like, for the color palette, I was looking at the work of this Indian painter that I really loved. His name is Vasudeo Gaitonde, and his like work, it really like connected to me, and I saw it for the first time in Delhi in the National Art Museum there. I was like, wow, like this is amazing. And it was just color. It was like completely abstracted, so you can't really attach like a story to it, but you feel the emotion. So that's where the color palette was coming from. But the rest of it was still, like heavily looking at saris, looking at the different ways of manipulating to, add dimension basically. And yeah, I mean, it was very natural.
That's when your iconic bag was born.
No, so the iconic bag, no, you're right. No, you're right. the iconic bag, I mean, the gallery bag we developed like while the first collection was being developed, but it just took longer than the first collection to be ready. So we showed it along with the second collection, and the lookbook and everything was very present. But it was just because like it took longer to be realized properly. So yeah, it was.
I want you to tell me the story of that bag. But you also have the bag here with you.
Yeah.
So I want you to explain a lot of
Okay.
the bag.
Yeah.
In details. Can I grab it?
Of course. So this is the gallery bag. This is like the bag that's our labor of love. It's in the small size over here. And the silhouette is very much inspired by, as I said, Le Corbusier's architecture in Chandigarh. So this is where, the curves are coming from, and the repeating lines as well are coming from that one building, the Palace of Assembly. And the main thing that I'm very that in my head made this bag so unique is the top handle, It's a top handle handbag, of course, but unlike other handbags in the market, which go like this, have two straps like this, and where it comes this basically I've, been very radical with the design and just connected the back of the bag to the front of the bag with this just one very elegant top handle basically. So this is kind of the defining factor of this handbag for me, even more than the shape. And yeah, I mean, the story of this handbag really came out of a frustration where when I was at Gucci, I'd noticed that all the top handle handbags were so like repetitive and formulaic. I was like, I mean, people deserve something new, something, interesting. And this is what I like made. And the cool thing about this handbag, it's also like reconceptualizing how you interact with the top handle handbag, because you have to carry it like this, as you mentioned,
Yes.
And it's so natural, like when you're standing like this, to have it like this, and it's facing the front always.
It makes so much more sense.
It makes a lot of sense, yeah.
When you explained it to me, I was like, why have we looked for this long with bags existing?
Yeah.
And only you noticed. It's like, I would have never even, it just talks about the genius behind the design.
No, I mean, it's something that came in a way, like it was an accident how I like arrived to this as well, because earlier when we were developing this, the original design was just focused on this element, right? And we had still the same one. And I was like just working on a very artificial kind of like aesthetic way, basically. But still, I wanted to create something very different and new in a top handle category. And I was like, but this is still like very surface level. And then we're just like playing around, detached the top handle, and we like got rid of one side of it, and then just like attaching it like this. And then we were like, this could be interesting, just like pinning it together. And then like carrying it, I was like, it makes sense. And then we were like, okay, how can we refine it in a way that it like really becomes quite seamless? It like follows the natural curve of the handbag. And we came up with this basically, and it was like, okay, that's the bag. I mean, that'll be the gallery bag basically. So it was really not so studied or something. It was just like in the moment, it was like, okay, that makes sense. So yeah. That's kind of the story of the gallery bag.
And it's beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Talking about this bag, I've noticed how much, not just this bag in general, you have an obsession with the crafts.
Yeah.
Why is that so important to you?
Because I feel like in the end of the day, like when someone is paying a premium price for something, it should last a very long time, just being like just very base level, And how do you achieve that? By having good craftsmanship, If that handbag was just kind of like, I don't know, glued together without any like, without any of these in the bottom to protect the base of the handbag when you put it down inadvertently on the floor, it would get worn out, So it's just like, if someone is going to be investing, decent amount on this handbag, I would want it to patina, and I would want it to kind of grow old with them in a very natural and beautiful way, where this handbag can still be with them when they're like 60, 70. It can be their version of a passed down Birkin bag or something, And that's how I like treat this handbag. I take care of it, but I'm not like babying it, like I use it roughly. I mean, I've taken it to Milan often. It's been in the rain. It's been like in snow in Romania. So, and it's like holding up quite well, you know. And I'm like very proud of, you know, where it's becoming a little bit like the leather is of course becoming way softer. The microfiber suede, it's getting, you know, some marks and things and all of that. But it means it's a good product. It's not breaking down or something. It's just evolving with you, which is natural. Like our bodies evolve, everything evolves, and that's it.
That's such a beautiful way to put it. That it's not wearing out of you, it's evolving with you the same way our bodies are. Yes, I love that. If someone was shopping for a piece of clothing, what should they look out for to make sure the craftsmanship was done correctly?
I think it's just like basic stuff. Like just make sure there's no loose threads on a t-shirt you're buying or something. Make sure, like, to be more specific, like when you look at the bottom of the armhole, make sure that it's lining up properly with the seam and everything. You know, make sure that the stitch density, like the size of the stitches is like it's equal to the other ones, you know. And I mean, moreover, like you'll just feel it, like when you feel something that is like extremely like polyester based, you'll feel that the quality isn't the best, you know.
What's one thing that makes you, when you're shopping for something, makes you feel like the designer behind this didn't really have a vision for this? They were just trying to sell a product.
To be honest, like I mean, for the past year I haven't really bought anything. Sound like quite detached from that place. But I can tell you the opposite, maybe. Like when the designer has really had a vision for it and has like had an idea. For example, I have this jacket, which is one of my like 4 favorite jackets I was talking about earlier. It's by Haider Ackerman, who is one of my favorite designers ever. And I have actually a women's wear piece from him, and it's a bomber jacket that fits me really well actually. And it has, I think, 3 different fabrics in it. They're all cotton based, so all cotton blends. And it's so beautiful because the place where you will move, there's a different fabric, which is a more like cotton with spandex kind of, you know, so it's more stretchy. Okay. So as you're moving, you never feel like you're constrained by the jacket because it is quite a slim fitting bomber jacket. And over here, there's that fabric attached, which it's like, it's quite smart, you know, to have this kind of like fabric which can expand and contract. And then also like in the back, this is quite a common thing in like most good pieces. Like you have darts in the back, you know, so that when you're expanding like this, when you're reaching for something, the dart, like the box pleat can really open and then you can really stretch more a little bit. This jacket has that as well. And then just like the attention to detail, like, you know, even if like a jacket has like internal pockets, for example, it really means that the designer thought about like, okay, like a person needs to carry things, right? And they might not want to keep like a bulky wallet in the front pocket of their jacket. Maybe it's better inside. So just small considerations. And it's not like for me, I don't see it as like a checklist of things. I see it as like intuitive like feelings, like where you feel like, okay, it's a considered piece, you know? Because like something like this, you won't find, even in this piece, like I don't have that where like I have something under my arm, like a piece of fabric that's more stretchy than the rest of the fabric, and it's like it helps me move better or something. It doesn't have to be part of every garment to make it high quality, but it's intuitive and it's like it's good design in a way. So yeah.
Something that I want to focus on for a little bit before we talk about your 3rd collection that's coming out soon is the topic around luxury fashion and the commercialization of fashion within the industry. I feel like now people have really understood the importance of craft and vision behind fashion through you. But I want to know what's your opinion on the logofication side of fashion that's being put out there.
I mean, it's really interesting. It can be like very, I think if you would have asked me this like literally a week ago, I would have like a very strong answer for it. But I think my view slightly changed recently because I saw like the new collection. Are you talking about Gucci so much? Like Demna Quesalia is in Gucci now as the creative director. And I saw like his new collection and there's one look that is like heavy on Gucci logos, and I don't hate it somehow because I think it plays it off in a very interesting way, where the garment itself is very like unique. It's a full look with a skirt and a top as well, or maybe it's a full dress, I don't know, but like on the edges of the garment there's like feathering like fringes, you know. It's very interesting. It's not my taste, of course, but like talking about the logofication and like big logos and stuff, I didn't mind it on that look, you know. And it's like literally like the entire print is Gucci, and I don't hate it because it's not like a plain t-shirt with like Gucci. It's like a look that the Gucci logo kind of adds to. So like a very simple answer for it to be would be like, no, I hate it. Like I'm very like about quiet luxury and all that. Like, but it's not so simple, to be honest, because it has like fashion has moments, right? I feel like it's not always bad. It just depends if it was lazily done or it was really considered. And this look that I'm talking about, it was like really considered for sure. You know, on like a plain t-shirt with like a lot of Gucci logos, it's lazy and it's just like a way to make money basically for people who just want something that shows wealth and power or something, status. That is lazy. That is like bad design. No one cares about it, but people buy it because they want people to know it's Gucci. But in another way, like for example, Marine Serre with the moon logo, that works so well and had a really strong moment in like 2018 to 2020 where like people really like the Marine Serre logo. And it's like, I think she's Muslim, the designer, Marine Serre, and it like the moon is referencing like the kind of Islamic moon, you know. I think, don't like quote me on that, I haven't done so much research, but I know the logo is like a crescent moon, and it worked really well, and it's very beautiful. It doesn't scream Marine Serre. It's like symbolic of something. So it's not simple, like it's not easy to actually comment on that. I think it can be interesting.
I love how you made the difference, like the difference very clear that it's not specifically about the logo, but it's the meaning behind the logo. Like if it's used in an artistic form, even the logo can be used from an artistic, from a visionary, from a cultural, from an intuitive, inspirational point of view. How important is it to not let something that will sell dictate your vision versus making people feel?
I mean, it's very important, I think. But it also depends what kind of brand you're trying to make, right? For example, if it's a brand that's, you know, meant for a specific subculture like skateboarding, for example, then you have to really cater to, you know, what a skateboarder might want to wear, right? Which is oftentimes, you know, some relaxed pair of pants in which they can really be fluid and go about, you know, the different tricks that they have to do and all of that. And then probably like paired with like a t-shirt or like maximum like a shirt or something, you know, like a flannel. So for that, you have to have like a very specific design language, and you have to be very honest to that design language because it has a purpose. Like it's meant for skating. But then I think where I sometimes have an issue is like when a skate brand tries to become like, is also commenting on the fact that it's like a fashion brand. Of course, it exists in the same world. Or it could also be that maybe I'm too like strong about that distinction. Like for fashion to be fashion, it has to like be, I don't know, experimental or like be really artistically free or something. But for me, that's like the only point where, I don't know. Of course, like with Absolute Findings as well, I want to sell clothes because this is my business and this is, you know, what my full-time role is basically. But I want to do it in a way that, you know, even my most commercial piece has something that is truly Absolute Findings about it. Like it's not going to be something completely out of the blue and completely random, you know. It's not going to be just like, I don't know, something that you can get from any other place in a way. That is the kind of brand that I want to make, that I see Absolute Findings as, you know. So for example, right now, one of our best pieces is a blazer, you know. And my parents were so concerned about me making this blazer, like me deciding to like put time into making this blazer like 15 or 16 times for sold, you know, because we're making it in-house. So we made 16 of these blazers. It's not a lot, but for us, it's a lot.
But it's a lot. It's
Yeah.
2 people working on
Exactly.
16 blazers. It's a lot.
So for us, it's a lot. My mom was like, Shiven, in Dubai, who will wear a blazer? You know, and it's not like a regular blazer that goes with a suit or something. It's like a specific blazer. And I was like, don't worry, I think it'll sell. And it did sell, you know, it's one of our more commercially viable products because it is something that is very, in a way, unique that you could only get from Maps and Findings up till now. You know, it has a very specific lapel design. It's very modular in the way that you can style it in 9 different ways. It's using a beautiful fabric, you know, and it is very particular to Apps and Findings. So that being our most like highly selling kind of piece, I'm very happy with it because it's truly Apps and Findings. But of course, I mean, every brand has a motivation to make money, and which is completely normal and completely fine.
And not talked about enough.
And not talked about enough because brands need money to exist.
Artists in general, if they want to be artists, they want to live money with it.
They need money,
So.
of course.
The
But
problem
I
is,
think there is a way to do it where you balance your artistic integrity, but also balance the commercial side. But also I know that my reality is very specific to me, where I'm like, I have the flexibility to be really creative and really push. And I'm very thankful and like grateful for that, you know, for my position and doing that. And I know like not every brand owner has that ability. So it's very clear, but I think, I mean, for every brand, it's a different journey, and every brand stands for different things, you know. I mean, Supreme is a brand that I really love. You know, I still love it. Like, even if I'm not a skateboarder, I still love it because I really like loved how Supreme, like watching a Supreme video made me feel when I was young. You know, it made me feel careless, and it made me feel everything that I was, and I was a very carefree kid. But it made me feel careless when I was like, you know, watching that video. So it's really,
yeah.
I think storytelling is the most important, you know, how you can make people connect to your brand. It's the most important, and how you position yourself is very important.
Can you explain to us first? Let's talk about your third collection. This is a collection that's coming out when?
Yeah, it's going to be, it's going to be unveiled on 20th.
On the 20th of January,
Yeah.
2026.
Yeah, but it's not going to be available to purchase until fall winter of 2026. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell us about this specific project that when you invited me to your studio, he was in the middle of sewing it. Him, Laura, your patent maker, I forgot his name. Sergeant.
Yeah.
All 3 of you sat in that studio working relentless hours.
No, completely.
Tell me about that project.
Yeah, so this is our first fall winter collection. So it's going to have pieces it's going to have our first knitwear piece in it.
Wow.
It's going to have our first like big winter coat in as well. And the story of this collection is we're really being literal with the dream side of House and Findings. Like, we're very consciously making choice in how we're communicating this collection as well to incorporate the dream world and incorporate kind of our realities when we're in a way sleeping, right? So even the fashion film that you'll see on the 20th, it's in a dream. Like, literally, it's in a dream.
Wait, can I ask you a question? Did your red Cadillac dream stop once you accomplished this collection?
No, it stopped after I finished the first collection. It stopped after the first collection of Absent Findings. Yeah, I haven't had that dream. It was like, that was one of the recurring dreams, and then I had another recurring dream that I was failing my maths, like 12th grade exam. So yeah.
Yes, go on to jump back to the third collection.
Third collection, it's seeing us be more experimental, because now I think we've established kind of the codes of the house. We've established some classics as well into the collections from the previous 2 collections. So this time we're being more playful, and that's kind of showcased through the dreamy nature of this collection, and also through a very like metaphysical kind of inspiration that we've gotten. I mean, I've been obsessed with the art of Giorgio Di Chirico for the past 6 months almost, ever since I like discovered his work. It's very metaphysical. It's very dreamlike. He often will paint like a piazza which is completely barren. Like there's no one except two people that are like mannequins that are made of rulers and like cardboard and stuff like that. This is my perception of it, of course. And that has me like on a chokehold, and I've been thinking about that a lot. So that became a massive inspiration for this collection, to the point that, you know, the color palette is very much inspired by that. Also, the silhouette is very much inspired by this. And another thing that I was really looking at was a costume designer from the school of Bauhaus. I'm forgetting his name right now, but his work was incredible. Like it was so otherworldly, and it really pushed my imagination as well. And that became like a massive reference point as well. And then, you know, the core, always like the grounding aspect of absent findings is to look at the drape of the sari. We recontextualize that once again in different ways. And then we've also, as I was telling you earlier, that we made our first like dress, you know, in this collection, which is very interesting. And
Tell me about that dress.
it's very fluid. Like it's a very fluid dress, because with absent findings until now, we've been quite sculptural, and the fluidity has kind of come through the one-of-one heritage sari pieces that we've kind of upcycled, you know, because the saris are very fluid. So of course the tops that come out of it are very fluid, but that's the only fluid aspect of absent findings until now. This dress is very dynamic. It moves a lot. It's very asymmetric, and the fabrics that we've used are very fluid, making the dress extremely fluid, you know. And it's a very feminine dress, but at the same time it's very I don't like sexy clothing.
Okay.
You know, I really don't like it.
Why?
Somehow, I don't know, I think sexy is too easy.
Okay.
But I think like kind of like making someone question is like more intellectually engaging, and hence even sexier. So this dress is like, it's my take on that kind of sexy, you know. Like I don't want to just be revealing for the sake of revealing. It's like a very beautiful dress for me, and it's very absent findings.
This is the first time you've ever used the mood boards for a collection crowd.
Oh yeah, this is the first time. Yeah.
Tell me, why did you choose to take that creative direction for
I mean,
this project?
to be honest, like I didn't think so much about it. Normally, I don't like to have a mood board in front of me, because I feel like it becomes too literal if I have a mood board in front of me. You know, like I like to know what my references are. I like to think about them, and then if they're changing in my head, you know, if like the artwork, if I'm remembering it in a different way, that just makes it even more mine. And then I can create something that is really beautiful and original, which is inspired by something else. So this is how it normally works. But for this collection, I decided to like have a mood board, because I don't know, I just wanted to like, because I think the work of the Kiriko is very like special to me, and I wanted to have that right next to me as I'm like working on the collection. And I wanted it to somehow be, it feels very absent findings to me, his work, you know, because like literally in his paintings, the piazzas are absent. Like there's no life in the squares,
Yeah.
you know, that he's
That
depicting.
complete darkness in the shadows, and you can't see what's happening behind, and there's so many dimensions, you can't see where their end is.
Yeah. And also, like, I mean, there's some paintings where there's a lot of light and you feel like it's daytime, there should be people, there should be life, but it's void of all that life. And that is very surreal. That is very like eerie in a way. And I like eeriness and artworks and stuff. So I really wanted to keep that for the mood of the entire thing. And then I was like, okay, if I'm going to keep the Kiriko's work in front of me, let's also keep other works in front of me, like the other references that I'm making, to see how they're communicating to each other, and to see if there's, you know, if I'm gravitating always to a similar visual language, just aesthetically talking, not talking about like the philosophical side of things, but just like literally the things that you see, you know, if I'm always drawn to the same thing, just to like see for myself. And what I realized, no, it's not like that. You know, the Kiriko's work is very different to the costume designer from Bauhaus. His work, it's very different. And then seeing kind of the Tower of Babel up there as well, you know, it's once again like super different. So for me, it was just like a thing to reassure myself that I'm getting inspiration from a lot of different things, from which I can really get everything and then push it through my own sensibility and create something unique. So it was like a challenge to myself in a way, but I didn't think so much about it, to be honest. Now that I'm talking about it, I'm thinking more about it.
Okay.
But it was just like, okay, let's just put it and see, basically.
Yeah. You're showcasing a short film that is directed by
Laura.
Laura, your friend, who's also the arts director at Milan Fashion Week.
Yeah.
This is insane.
No, we're very excited.
When you think about 3-year-old you going to the park with your grandpa versus you lost after dropping out of uni in America, and then even not knowing what you're gonna do after Gucci until you found apps and findings, and now you're showcasing a short movie in Milan Fashion Week. How does this feel, and how did you come to this decision?
I mean, it's very surreal. It's very surreal, and it's really an honor. And I can be very thankful to my like 2 mentors who've kind of made this happen, to be honest. It's taken a lot of like hard work and like a lot of problem solving and a lot of like being detached to your ideas and your identity as well. Because I feel like if I was too attached to my identity, I wouldn't have excelled or kind of like left previous versions of me. It's taken a lot of like being selfless as well. But no, I mean, I can't be more happy, to be honest. I feel like I also see it as something that is quite unusual for like a young brand.
It is.
But I'm taking it as it comes, like I try always, and this is for anyone doing something that is scary, take it like step by step. Don't look at the entire big picture, because then it's too overwhelming. Because if you look at the entire thing, if you're a person like me, you wouldn't do anything. You just sleep.
Yeah.
And you're happy in your sleep. And you're
living your dream world.
Yeah, in your dream world.
But it's that you should know and absolutely find things and not you should.
Yeah. I feel like I'm just taking it step by step, So like once we got the opportunity from Milan Fashion Week, of course we said yes. There was not even a question. Like my mentor didn't even ask me, would you want to do it? It was just like, I'm getting you this, you have to do it. Okay. Right? And my mentor is Michelle in this case. And the opportunity came. We were like, okay, how do we manage it? Because the timeline for the collection became really rushed, because otherwise we were prepping for kind of Feb, So it's like all of a sudden we have to be ready with the collection before the 6th of January, where on the 7th, literally we're shooting the collection. So it has to be really ready. So we were working, as I mentioned, like from 9 a.m. until like 2:30 a.m. Me and Sajid in the studio. And then like even after like at 2:30 a.m. when I'm like, or 3 a.m. when I'm entering bed, I'm not sleeping because I'm still thinking everything that has to be done the next day.
Yeah, you're just thinking of solutions in your head and your sleep.
Exactly, like in my sleep, I'm thinking like, okay, what fabric do I have to use? Because I don't have an unlimited budget. I can't keep buying fabric, so I have to be very creative in the way that I'm using, the same 10 to 12 fabrics in different combinations to make the collection keep it feeling fresh, So like a lot of that kind of thinking, but it's really, I'm too happy, really. I'm super happy, and Laura did an amazing job like directing and like writing the script for this film. We worked with a insanely talented cinematographer. His name's Yasin. And we worked with one of my very close friends, Nisha, who was the stylist of the first collection. And now she's the stylist of the third collection. And then my parents were on board on the day. My mom was doing the hairstyle for the models. So it was really amazing. All the models were amazing. They all fit the characters so well. And yeah, it was super. And I'm so excited to be showcasing it on the 20th in Milan.
I can't wait for you to come back, Emotions, because this is probably going to come out after you've done the Milan Fashion Week.
Okay.
So I can't wait for you to come back and see the difference between before and the after.
No, I'm really excited.
Okay, Shiven, we have a tradition on this podcast. 10 years from now, looking back at this time capsule, what do you have hoped to have achieved?
What would I have hoped to have achieved 10 years from now?
Yes.
I just want to be really happy. I want to have a beautiful house that is not massive. I want a cozy place, and I want to be with Laura in that house. We make it very beautiful. We go to a lot of vintage markets. We find beautiful art. We find beautiful sculptures. We have it all around our house. We have lots of books. lots of old books that we found, lots of new books that we found. I want a original painting by David Lynch in this house. I want Absent Findings to be doing well. I want to have the same level of focus that I have right now for Absent Findings, because literally the past year and the 1.5 year before that is the most focused I've been. Even in Polymode, I told you, I like was missing deadlines and stuff.
Yeah.
But with Absent Findings, it's the most focused I've been. It's the most I've given to a project, you know, and I hope I can still maintain that 10 years from now. Yeah, I wish I have a dog, and I wish I have a very beautiful garden, and
I wish all of this happy.
I wish all of this happiness for myself and for everyone. I hope, you know, I don't know, like, I hope people are happy. People that I love are happy as well. And yeah, I mean, I don't know, like, what else have people said for this question?
Don't worry, you'll send the most time. I want you to look at yourself into this camera
Okay.
and tell yourself a message. Tell your future self a message.
You've done good. You did well.
Okay, thank you so much, Shiven. Where can people find your brand? Where can they find you?
Just on Instagram at Absent Findings, ABSENT Findings, and the website is the same.com, and that's it. You'll see our Fall Winter 26 collection, the short film. The collection is called Not What You Think, and the short film is also called the same. And you'll see it on YouTube. We'll have a YouTube channel very soon. I have to do that today or tomorrow. And yeah, it'll be up on the 20th of January.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did.